are assessed to the upside. In the near term, inflation appears well contained. However, the medium-term outlook is more uncertain than usual, with material risks from external environment. Domestic factors such as administered prices are also problematic. Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points with effect from the 31st of January 2025. 4 members preferred this action, while 2 supported an unchanged stance. The committee ultimately agreed that it was possible to reduce the degree of policy restrictiveness, making the stance somewhat more neutral. However, all members were concerned about the uncertain global outlook. The forecast sees rates drifting slightly lower over the next few years, stabilizing near 7.25%. But this rate path from the quarterly projection model remains a broad policy guide. The MPC would like to emphasize that its decisions will be made on a meeting-by-meeting basis with no forward guidance and no pre-commitment to any specific rate path. Such decisions will continue to be outlook-dependent, responsive to data developments, and sensitive to the balance of risks to the forecast. Given the challenging global environment, the MPC spent some time during this meeting reviewing a trade war scenario. This featured a universal increase of 10 percentage points in US tariffs with retaliatory measures by other countries. The scenario showed higher inflation and interest rates globally, as well as greater risk aversion in financial markets. In response, our model projected the rand depreciating to nearly 21 rand to the US dollar, with domestic inflation reaching 5% and the policy rate 0.5 percentage point higher at its peak relative to baseline forecasts. We also looked at a scenario of accelerated structural reforms domestically. This showed growth picking up gradually, getting to 3% in 2027. Importantly, this scenario also showed lower inflation and lower interest rates in South Africa, demonstrating how structural reforms can reduce the country's risk premium and create more monetary policy space. Considering the difficulties of the external environment, it remains crucial to sustain domestic reform momentum while protecting macroeconomic stability. The MPC's main contribution is to deliver low and stable inflation with well-anchored inflation expectations. The committee remains vigilant and ready to calibrate policy as needed. Additional measures that would improve economic conditions include reaching a prudent public debt level, further repairing and strengthening network industries, lowering administered price inflation, and keeping real wage growth in line with productivity gains. That concludes our statement, and at this stage we would invite members of the media to pose any questions that you might have, and we would deal with them accordingly. As usual, please identify yourself and the media house that you are affiliated with, and we would then address your questions. Okay, everything is as expected.
That will be a first.
Good afternoon, Governor and Deputy Governors. Happy New Year. I guess my first question is for the members who chose to hold. what is the reasoning when we look at how low inflation has been in South Africa to date? Are there concerns? Is it a preemptive move? Would it be something preemptive, or would it be, or is there a bigger concern in the underlying inflation number, or at least domestically, that we are not seeing perhaps? And then secondly, in your trade war scenario, you highlight high rand depreciation, but that inflation remains range bound, so rising up to 5%, but that's still in your target band. So why would the policy rate rise in an instance like that? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor and the panel members. My name is Ntando Tukwana from Bloomberg News. Governor, looking at your models and the fact that the repo rate now is close to the forecast for the repurchase rate for the year, is that suggestive that we are nearing a hold or an adjustment in the rate path? Thank you very much.
Okay. Kopano, yes, inflation is low. Outcome of two things: policy decisions of the past and positive supply shocks. The two positive supply shocks were the exchange rate and the oil price. If you look at what had happened since, we have had 4 consecutive months now of rising petrol price. And at some stage, the negative inflation that we had seen in the fuel price will get out of the system. The currency had also has been weaker, as we had said, that even our starting point is now weaker than at the previous meeting, mainly driven by global factors. The dollar had strengthened across most currencies. And that's why we kept on emphasizing that the risks that we had identified in previous meetings are indeed materializing. And then you say there were members who had argued for a hold, and was that preemptive? Well, you could argue that the fact that the MPC decided to cut rates was being preemptive. But that is not the game we play. Our approach to monetary policy is risk-based. And what was unanimous in the committee was that the global environment is uncertain, risks abound, and that we should continue to move with caution. And that is what almost all central banks are faced with at the moment. There is a lot of caution. So preemptive is not the kinds of things we do. We take a decision based on the outlook. And you said inflation was low, as I had said, correct, but that is in the past. What will inflation be in the future? That is what we focus on. The scenario that we talked about of what we characterized as a trade war scenario, you say that why would the rate rise if inflation remains within the target? This is how models work. Inflation is within the target precisely because the model calculated that there would have had to be a rate rise. If there wasn't a rate rise in that scenario, then inflation wouldn't have been within target. That is what this actually then means. Ntando, are we nearing the end?
Okay, and that's where we can leave it. So there you are, the news from the Reserve Bank Governor, Lesetja Kganyago. And the key thing that you need to know is that 25 basis points cut of the repo rate, which basically is 0.25%. That, of course, somehow will filter down to repayments of loans in particular. Right, let's get a response on that with Dr. Lumkile Mondi, who's a lecturer at the School of Economics and Finance at the Wits Business School. Dr. Mondi, thanks for connecting with us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Right, first things first, I mean, the 25 basis points cut, do I take it that's completely expected?
100%. I think many of us, and the markets, of course, have already priced that one in, given that, we're within the band. But as the governor has said, with all the Trump policy decisions and the threat of tariffs across the world, the future remains completely uncertain. So therefore, there is a need for caution just to ensure that we don't find South Africa having to reverse the downward trend because we're too quick in cutting interest rates. So 25 basis points is reasonable.
And on the other hand, I mean, it was not likely to be much more than that, right?
I mean, it could have done more than that, but I think given, as I said, the uncertainty, we now have got also the weather changing, being too warm. We're not sure how the food prices are going to be going forward. But also, of course, with the oil prices and the settlement that is possible in Ukraine, Russia, with Trump's intervention, all those things indicate to quite a number of uncertainty, particularly in relation to our import basket. And therefore, we know that next month petrol is going up. But all these leads to caution, leads to our central bank taking a very, very reasonable, cautious line.
Okay, what does this say, and what did the governors say about his overall assessment of effectively the state of the economy?
So, I mean, the governor said, they are reliant on models, and being reliant on models, a lot of it factors what has happened in the past. And therefore, for them to really predict what happened in the future, it's all forecast. And therefore, they cannot, effectively, take very aggressive approaches in their monetary decision because they are using the information that's already in the past. And of course, we've got quite a lot of new information to come through in the past week, particularly in relation to anti-globalist position by Trump and what we're seeing happening across the world. So I think all those lead to the tone that is put on the governor, which was a very cautious tone, taking into cognizance that, of course, are within the band, but also being aware that, there are a lot of risks that remain in the world, and in a world that is fracturing under the Trump administration, we may as well experience a lot of volatility, particularly from the currency side, as you were saying. So all these factors really lead to quite a very reasonable approach by the MPC, and then making a quarter basis point and going very hard for a 50 basis point.
Okay. He also, the Reserve Bank governor, also spoke about inflation. What did he say?
So as far as inflation is concerned, I think it's within the band. All of us are aware it's within the band. The past is showing us that, we're likely to see prices in certain areas coming down. However, the external factors, given that we're an open economy, may upset the supply, and therefore it's quite important for him to embark on that. I know some of the people want the MPC to embark on preemptive strike if the whole environment does stabilize and therefore give signal that we should cut. But he's very clear that if the MPC has never acted that way, never take preemptive strike, we're very cautious, we digest and make those decisions. So it is that approach of our central bank that we're familiar with, where they're predictable, they bring certainty, and we can always predict how they're going to react, given how cautious they are as a team sitting in the monetary policy committee.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd feel is needs highlighting coming out of what the Reserve Bank governor has said?
I think one of the things that, there's a paper written by my colleague, one of our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Imran Valudia, in relation to the MPC having external people sitting there, particularly people who are coming from the industrial sector, given that where we see jobs likely to happen are in the industrial as well as services sector. The call was, can you get someone sitting there maybe to put a different view in the MPC, given that they're quite unified and they all work for Central Bank. So it is something I think your listeners, I think South Africans, should be thinking about and debating, because maybe the MPC might be too close to the sun. Maybe we need someone else who's coming in who can give a different view, so that we can have a very thorough engagement to our monetary policy making, decision making.
Okay, point taken. Thanks for your time, Dr. Lunkile Mondi, lecturer at the School of Economics and Finance at the Wits Business School. And the key point here is that the SARB, South African Reserve Bank, cutting repo rates by 25 basis points. Prime lending rate now at 11%. And by and large, there's been a lid kept on inflation, which is good news, although some may say we don't see that. But that's another whole conversation completely. Right. Any thoughts you have? Any comments? Let's hear it. My name is Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. This is the National Pulse.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing, anything can go wrong. The reason I chose OUTsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for best business insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business OUTsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
There will be joy and heartbreak at the Groenkloof Tennis Stadium in Pretoria. South Africa takes on Nigeria. The South is up against the West. This is the Davis Cup World Group 2 tie, the World Cup of tennis. Witness the spectacular tennis battle between South Africa and Nigeria on Saturday 1 February at 11 a.m. and Sunday 2 February at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. You can also catch the Sunday action on SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, I welcome your comments. Now, this is how you can connect. You can call in 086 000 2032. And by the way, if you're a first-time listener, I'd like to know if you've been listening for the very first time, so welcome to the show. If you're a first-time caller, well, tell me when you do get on. To connect, you can also WhatsApp us, text or voice note, 0614 104 107, and add your comments on the conversations we've had and will have on the X platform. Just tweet us, use the hashtag The National Pulse when you tag SAFM Radio, and do tag me, Ashraf Garda, as well. There's no question, outside the repo rate cut, the biggest issue dominating South Africa, well, the African continent really, in the last few days has got to be the issue of the South African soldiers from the army killed in the DRC, in the eastern DRC, and the allegations in terms of who did what and who are to blame for that. And there's the spat now between South Africa and Rwanda. Now, I say spat because the Rwandan President Paul Kagame issued a strong statement, firstly in terms of visual statement, and then followed up with a series of tweets that confirmed what he said. And he warned that if Pretoria seeks a confrontation, in fact, he's saying South Africa is not in a position to act as a peacemaker or mediator, and that if Pretoria seeks confrontation, Rwanda will respond accordingly. Well, don't take my word for it. Here it is.
For the last 2 days, on Monday and today this morning, I spoke with the President of South Africa, who sought me out to speak with me on this matter because of their involvement in Eastern Congo. And he's also there pretending to be playing a peacemaker role, and he has a force that has been fighting alongside FDLR and has been fighting the M23 on the instructions of Tshisekedi, because these are people who are not supposed to be in Congo, that these are from Rwanda, or the M23 are not Rwandans, please. These are Congolese, and one time he accepts it, then another time he says no, part of it is yes, and then the other part is from Rwanda, and these are the. He keeps on going. And how do we, leaders of our own countries, accept this to go on forever and just accept that we shall be manipulated by Tshisekedi or whoever is supporting him? And South Africa dares even issue threats about what is likely to happen after that, and so on and so forth. Of course, we will see what threats they are talking about. Maybe they should have done that exactly for which they have been issuing threats. They should have done it to clean up the mess in Eastern Congo, or to fight back those who have been trying to clean up the mess. So then you have the whole international community just confused. They talked about Rwanda, they talked about the Nairobi process. Honestly, even here, maybe you will help me understand what all this means. The processes became an end in themselves, and the people leading these processes became more important than the results of the processes. The Nairobi process became a Uhuru process. Then the Rwanda process, it's like you can't say anything that will displease President Lorenzo. Definitely, this does not help deal with such a serious matters as we are faced with today. That in the end, just because they can't be addressed, we have such a situation like we have now. And if anybody, and above all, I don't understand how Tshisekedi keeps thinking that he will resolve the problems to do with rights of people militarily. Kill them, shoot them, bring in forces that are ready to help, like especially Burundi. Well, I don't know whether that has been helpful for the last few days or weeks. They have been doing that. So I want us to, Chairman, Your Excellencies, I want us, whatever we are saying and whatever we intend to do, we capture the context rightly and then proceed based on that, and maybe we can get somewhere. But otherwise, if we keep saying good things, saying that, and to each other being nice, and then each one fulfilling their own interests other than others' interests, the common interests we have as East Africans, then I don't see how we are going to contribute effectively to finding a solution. But really, to have even had East Africa and everybody complied, and then there was quiet. It's as if it was normal, or that is okay. Everything dictated by the country or the person we are trying to help. I didn't understand that. And that's where we are now. That's how we are here, where we are. So let me maybe for now stop here. I would really want to hear advice of others, but I think it's not just a plaything. It's not. It's a serious matter, evidently, because it consumes people's lives. And the other day, 2-3 days ago, we lost people. There was a lot of sharing from Eastern Congo, from Goma, and killed and a dozen people and injured hundreds. We will definitely take care of that. There's no question about it.
So we're going to, that of course is Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda. We'll have many takes on that issue. In fact, what we'll be doing later on, we'll chat to Tebogo Ditsekgo after 5 o'clock, looking at how this row has been communicated from the South African side, the DRC side, as well as from Rwanda. And after 4 o'clock, we'll chat to the SABC News international editor, and that is Sophie Makwena. But before that, right, at around 20 to 4, we chat to Yolandi Makolo, who is the spokesperson for the Rwandan government. That comes up very, very shortly. Do not miss that. Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Daneo Mataung.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 3:30. Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago has announced that the Monetary Policy Committee has decided to cut rates by 25 basis points, meaning that the prime lending rate decreases to 11%. In other news, a 27-year-old man accused of kidnapping and raping 2 nurses at Hachweni Clinic near Lebwagomo has abandoned his bail application at the Polokwane Magistrates Court in Limpopo. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz have ordered a delay in the release of Palestinian prisoners. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Winnie Mandela Drive in Sandton has delays between Peter Place and Republic Road. The N14 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards the R101 interchange. In Bedfordview, the N3 northbound slow moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Gillies interchange, and the R24 westbound has delays towards...
This is SAFM Sports with Tumin Khapele.
Right, to me, you've got an Orlando Pirates top, right? I'm just trying to see now.
Yes,
Okay.
today I'm wearing an Orlando Pirates
Tomorrow,
top.
Chiefs.
I think tomorrow I'll wear Chiefs, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because the Soweto Derby is coming up. And talking about the Soweto Derby, Orlando Pirates head into the Soweto Derby this weekend looking to be the only Buccaneers side to defeat Kaizer Chiefs 4 times in a row in the 55-year history of the rivalry. Now, Coach Jose Rivero's team won both league games last season and the Nedbank Cup semi-final 2023, and they're now seeking an unprecedented 4th successive victory. They have already played 27 games this season, recording 20 wins, 4 draws, and just 3 losses. And a win for Pirates will help them close the gap to log leaders Mamelodi Sundowns to 3 points. But assistant coach Mandla Ncikazi insists that they are taking it one game at a time.
There's so many competitions that our club has been involved in. If we were to try and look at all those dynamics, I think we'll lose focus. What helps the team to stay focused is looking at the next match, analyze the opponents, prepare who is ready to play, and perform and try and win the match. I think that has helped us. So Kaizer Chiefs, we see a team that is an opponent where we need points, and we're just going there to try and get 3 points. Where the points are taking us is something else that is not calculated within. For us, try and play and try and win the next match. That's all we're focusing on.
So, Ashraf, remember yesterday I asked our listeners to listen in today because I've got something nice to possibly give them.
Yeah.
I have double tickets to the Soweto Derby that I want to give away. I just want them to answer this very simple question. How many players do they know of that have played for both Kaizer Chiefs and Pirates?
Such a good question.
Very simple. How many players do you know of that have played for both Kaizer Chiefs and Pirates? Just give us the number.
So they don't have to give out every name, eh?
No, they don't have to give out every name. Just give us a number.
Okay.
How many players?
Can I guess?
Try guessing.
11.
No, you're wrong.
Too high. No, but then we can't talk now because we can't talk.
So they can send a voice note or send an SMS. But still staying with football, Ruben Amorim has warned Manchester United forward Marcus Rashford that he has to change if he wants to save his Old Trafford career. Now, Rashford has not played for United since a Europa League tie in December. The 27-year-old will miss his 12th successive game when Amorim's side finished the Europa League group phase today. And in tennis, the US Open will become a 15-day tournament in 2025, beginning on a weekend for the first time in the Open era. Now, this year's main draw at Flushing Meadows will start on the 24th of August and end on the 7th of September. It becomes the latest Grand Slam to announce a Sunday start, and the Australian Open expanded to a 15-day tournament in 2024 after the French Open took that decision in 2006, and that leaves Wimbledon as the only remaining Slam event to retain the traditional Monday start. Meanwhile, the Professional Tennis Players Association is launching a new pro bono legal defense program for players facing allegations of doping or corruption. Now, the PTPA, which was established by Novak Djokovic and Vasek Pospisil in 2020 to advocate for players, will provide support through law firms to players regardless of their financial resources. And finally, in cricket, MI Cape Town all-rounder Corbin Bosch is excited after they made it third time lucky in securing their spot in the SA20 playoffs for the first time. The Cape side romped to a bonus point 10-wicket win over Sunrisers Eastern Cape, who were dismissed for just 107 runs at Newlands last night. Now, Bosch, who put in a man-of-the-match performance of 4 for 19 in just 3.2 overs, said that it's good to see every department in the team contribute towards an important victory.
I think the team has been, we've gelled really well together, and it's helped that a lot of our players have been informed throughout the competition, and it's always someone else putting up their hand. The guys at the top have batted beautifully, so I think that's, on the batting front, that's definitely helped us set up games, and I think as a bowling unit we've taken wickets at crucial times, which has allowed us to be in the position that we're in.
Well, that's it. It's a wrap from my side for now.
Why are you laughing so?
I'm laughing because our camera guy in studio is trying to
He wants the tickets. But it's not 11.
It's not 11.
It must be 6. The way you responded, you didn't say, "Come on, man, think more." It must be 6.
Nope. Try guessing.
I'll give you the first person who played for both teams. I'm only giving you a name.
No, you can't, because I think you're going to give it away. No,
I'll say
absolutely not. No.
How can I not mention Kaiser Motaung?
No, you can't do that. Why would you do that?
Because that's obvious. If they don't know that, they shouldn't be going to watch the game. Anyway, okay. In passing, she's so happy with the Chiefs stop tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Okay, more sport in an hour. Yeah.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The Toffees are well aware that only maximum points will help them out of the bottom half.
Lewin, great feat, brilliance, absolutely superbly done. Calvert-Lewin for Everton.
Meanwhile, the Foxes believe they are in dire need of victory to run away from trouble.
It's Jordan Ayew, back to goal. Jordan Ayew has scored for Leicester City, and those Leicester fans are celebrating wildly.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb contest, Everton FC versus Leicester City FC, on Saturday 1 February at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So there's no question, if you came here like a few days ago and you told me we'll be talking about South Africa, the DRC and Rwanda all week, I probably would have said can't be. But that's clearly what's happened since we found out that 9 South Africans were killed in a form of combat over the weekend, and then followed up by another 4 people. So my understanding at this point in time, 13 people. So one is the loss of life, but there's a whole diplomatic row that is emerging coming out of that. So we thought let's find out more about it from different aspects. I mentioned Sophie Mokoena, we'll talk to her later on, as well as Tebogo Ditsejo, right? But with me right now is Yolande Makolo, who's the spokesperson for the Rwandan government. Yolande, I appreciate you giving off your time. You are now certainly live on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. First, your thoughts, I mean, as the spokesperson representing your government, right? What's your overall assessment of what has happened over the last few days? I mean, I'm thinking of a case study of understanding countries and geopolitics.
Well, I think what has happened with the taking of Goma by M23 is a turning point, and it comes from failed from failed talks with the DRC on their mismanagement of the country and of their citizens, and as well as the serious and legitimate security concerns that Rwanda has about the conflict at our border and the threats to the lives of our people. So what has happened is a turning point, and it's an opportunity to get back on track. To address the root causes of the conflict in Eastern DRC, to address seriously Rwanda's security concerns, and to ensure that the people who live in this region, not just the border communities, but everyone is able to live safe, self and fulfilled lives. We want peace. Nobody wants war. It's not good for anybody.
Everybody wants peace, absolutely. But you do say it's a turning point. Explain, what do you mean by turning point?
What I mean is that the situation before this was untenable. Rwanda was in talks with the DRC government, mediated by Angola, on several issues. Top of this was our security concerns, based on a militia, a genocidal militia, FDLR. These are people who committed genocide here in 1994 and fled to the DRC, settled in the eastern part of that country, and continued to kill Congolese Tutsi on that side of the border, and they have always threatened to come back to Rwanda and finish the job. This is something we take seriously. It's also in a context where they are now revitalized, they're financed, they're armed, they're supported by the government of the DRC, and they're fighting alongside the Congolese army. So this is something that we cannot tolerate as Rwanda, given what we have built here.
Okay,
in the last
so if you can't tolerate it, and then by the way, I must tell you, I've visited your country, and I mean, what happened in 1994, I think it was. I mean, just a horrific example of things that can go completely wrong when humanity just gets lost. So I think it's a reminder to every one of us, right, of what may happen. So if you're saying that grouping that in fact draws the inspiration from what happened in 1994 around that genocide are supported by the DRC government, then let's then ask you about the M23. I mean, the perception, is it a fact that in fact they are supported by the Rwandan government for the reasons that you've just mentioned, that you are very concerned about safety issues on that border?
The M23 comes from a community of persecuted Congolese Tutsis in the DRC. Their rights have been denied them. They have been victimized. They have been subject of hate speech and killings. The villages have been burnt. We have 100,000 Congolese Tutsi refugees in Rwanda. Some of them have been here more than 20 years. Uganda has even more. Kenya has Congolese Tutsi refugees. They're scattered all over the region. Why? Because the FDLR and the ethnic militia that they have contaminated on the Congolese side of the border have been decimating these communities. This is what the M23 says that they're fighting for. So if you ask, do we understand? If you're asking, do we understand what the M23 is fighting for? Yes, we do, because we know what happened here. And it's the same people who committed genocide here that have transmitted this ideology of genocide to a younger generation. And they continue the fight.
And if I ask you, do you empathize with the M23?
Everybody should. It's a persecuted community. They're being persecuted for who they are. This is what happened here. No one should have to suffer that. Everyone should be able to live in their homeland in peace.
Okay, so you empathize for the reasons you mentioned. Now, does your government actually support them? Not verbal support as in empathy, which you've displayed already, right? But actual support, either in terms of army, in terms of arms, in terms of financial support to back them?
What our government is doing and what our army is doing, the RDF, is protecting our borders, ensuring that our territorial integrity and making sure that Rwandan citizens and everyone who lives in Rwanda is safe. We have very robust defensive measures along our border, actually defensive and offensive measures, because we cannot take any risk at all given what has happened here before. We have built capabilities to ensure that that hostility and the violence and the conflict that is happening in the DRC cannot cross over to Rwanda. We do not have strategic depth. We have to deal with that existential threat where it is.
All right.
And they have been threatening us for years now.
All right. I understand the why, but you haven't quite answered whether there's an actual support of the M23 in terms of financial or actual physical support in terms of arms.
Yeah, it's clear that we have we have the same enemy. Our concern is ensuring that that enemy doesn't cross over to our border.
Okay, so just to confirm, so there's no ambiguity, we have the same enemies, what you're saying. So who is the same enemy you refer to? Just so that we know.
It's the FDLR, these genocidal militias that have been allowed to thrive in the DRC for the last 30 years. These are a UN-sanctioned militia, genocidal militia. They're now being supported, armed, financed by the government of the DRC. And they're fighting alongside the Congolese army, which the South African forces are also supporting.
Okay.
So in actual fact, the South African forces are fighting alongside the FDLR and other ethnic militias. I would ask you, why would they do that?
Well, it's a question we'll put to our president and hopefully he can answer that. But to confirm, therefore, you're saying the FDLR is your enemy. By extension, and you can correct me, that the DRC government is your enemy. And now if you're saying the South African government is fighting alongside them, can we also say that they're also your enemy?
No, I think that the South African Defense Force that is fighting in Sami DRC, the SADC force that came to fight alongside the Congolese army, should not be there because they are involved in a fight that they do not understand, that your population, I have seen, does not understand or support. They should be, if South Africa can play a role, it's an important country in Africa, they can play a role in ensuring that the political process works, that we're able to pursue a political path to long-lasting peace in the region.
So my understanding, and we'll get to Kagame and Ramaphosa in a moment, my understanding is in terms of South Africa's playing its role, this is what we were told, it's a peacekeeping role. And you're obviously going to say you don't agree with that because you've alluded to that already. What role then should South Africa actually be playing?
It's not about me agreeing to it. I think you should do a little bit of research and ask your officials how Sami DRC and the South African forces came here and under what conditions. It's very clearly laid out in their own statements that they are a fighting force. They're involved in active combat. There is a peacekeeping force in DRC, the UN force, MONUSCO. That is clear. We have a different kind of problem with them because they have been completely ineffective. They've been there for almost 30 years now and achieved nothing. The situation there is worse than it's ever been, which is what led to the events of this past weekend.
Okay.
So the South African forces in the Sami DRC are clearly not a peacekeeping force. They're a belligerent force. They have an offensive mandate, and they're involved in combat.
Okay, so therefore to confirm, and I want to get to South Africa in just a second, the issue of, so are there Rwandan nationals from your country fighting amongst the M23? And the question I asked you earlier, have you provided weapons for them? Which, if you support about them, I would understand that, if that's what you're doing.
No, I told you that we understand what they're fighting for, that we have our own defensive and offensive measures along our border to protect our territorial integrity and to protect our citizens.
Right, let's talk about South Africa and Rwanda in terms of what's happened over the last day. We'll do that right after this.
Owning a small or medium-sized business takes courage, skill, and determination. The Clientele Legal Business Plan is there to protect, guide, and assist your business in managing the legal risks. Let us handle your labor matters, employment contracts, CCMA referrals, and so much more. Our team of professional lawyers are standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 42770. That's SAFM to 42770. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
There will be joy and heartbreak at the Groenkloof Tennis Stadium in Pretoria. South Africa takes on Nigeria. The South is up against the West. This is the Davis Cup World Group 2 tie, the World Cup of tennis. Witness the spectacular tennis battle between South Africa and Nigeria on Saturday 1 February at 11 a.m. and Sunday 2 February at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. You can also catch the Sunday action on SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ever since Uspillion won 5,000 rand, 5 tower on Wheel of Fortune, he only wears white push-in sandals. Star white, Baba. And he owns 10 identical pairs. And before he did not even know the Queen's language. Now, Kalabo, wow. Chance. Let's watch Wheel of Fortune weekdays, Monday to Friday at 7:30 on S3 and see how one spin changed Billion's life and how it can change ours as well in just one day.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, continuing, I think, a very important conversation with Yolande Makolo, the spokesperson for the government of Rwanda. Right, let's then move on to other issues, Yolande, which is President Ramaphosa from South Africa spoke about what they saw, what went wrong with the loss of lives of South Africans. And their understanding is that these South Africans were killed by the forces that you call the enemies of the DRC. I understand there's been a turnaround from the Rwandan side. You actually saying that they were killed by supporters of the DRC. Just what's your official understanding of that?
Well, President Ramaphosa himself told President Kagame that he knows that the soldiers from South Africa were killed by the Congolese armed forces that are fighting alongside a ragtag group of very violent militias.
All right. I mean, we know there's been a big ambiguity of that coming from different sources within South Africa, and it does sound very, very confusing. Let's then talk about Kagame's effectively I would say reprimanding South Africa in many ways, suggesting you can't be this peacemaker, or claim to be the peacemaker, and doing what you're doing right now, and then followed up with a series of tweets. What is the position of your president in pushing that communication line to this country?
Well, what my president did was very simple. He responded to a tweet that had a lot of misinformation. It did not reflect what President Ramaphosa tweeted, did not reflect their conversations, the two calls that they had this past few days. And they've spoken many times. I think President Kagame is always willing to speak to anyone who has anything to contribute, because we're always looking for a political solution. And President Ramaphosa has been forthcoming with wanting to connect with the president and discuss these issues. And we appreciate that. What we did not appreciate is these tweets that came out that did not reflect what they spoke about. And President Kagame, was very clear in his tweets last night. That was really to clarify and put out the truth of what they spoke about.
Why was
South Africans deserve the truth. I mean, you said you saw yourself. There's a lot of confusion with this information.
Well, it clearly is, right? But should it not have been the other way around, which is maybe pick up a phone and have this diplomatic chat between the two presidents and say, hold it, you've got this wrong?
Yeah, maybe President Ramaphosa should have done that before he tweeted the lies that he did.
No, I understand that, but maybe the correction should have been to him, privately, as opposed to via tweet. What I'm asking is what would you hope to achieve from the tweet, besides the fact that we're now talking about it, understandably, so we have a lot more knowledge about your position, so I think we're grateful for that. But would that bring the peace? Would that save the peace?
No, as you said yourself, there's a good outcome. People now have a good idea of what's going on. They can make up their own mind, given what they're seeing. I think it was important. It was a good outcome. The fact that people are talking about it is good. We're all Africans. We need to talk about issues that concern us. So, and the more truth we have out there directly, the better. It's the beauty of social media.
All right. What do you think, therefore, is well, maybe here's the first point. After the tweet, did President Ramaphosa or his representatives come back to you? If they certainly haven't done it on a tweet form, have they then picked up a phone and said, okay, we got it wrong, or actually, you've still got it wrong? Has that happened?
No.
So there's been no communication since then?
No.
Okay. What do you want to see happen next? And we're talking with regard to South Africa compared to the DRC, with South Africa specifically.
First of all, South Africa has to be honest about what they're doing in the DRC. I think the South African citizens deserve that. We are responsible for our own citizen and our own security, so we will tell them the truth of what's happening here and our concerns about what's happening across the border. So, and also, as the president said, South Africa, if they want to contribute to peaceful solution, that's very welcome. I mean, this concerns all of us. SADC replaced East African force, East Africa Community Regional Force that was in the DRC as peacekeepers, and they were contributing to ensuring that the conversation, that the dialogue was continuing. They were there to ensure a political process was concluded. They were kicked out by President Tshisekedi, who wants foreign armies and other militias, including European mercenaries, to fight for him, because his own army is notoriously corrupt, indisciplined, and completely unable to secure the country. So what we have in Eastern DRC right now is a complete failure of governance and security right at our border. Okay. This is something no responsible government would tolerate.
All right, two things before I let you go then. Are there plans, assuming South Africa does not respond to President Kagame's tweets and public pronouncements, would you still then follow up with South Africa directly, or would you completely just ignore that? Because I mean, if you want the peace, then people who disagree would actually still want to get closer together and talk to each other. Would that happen from your side?
Well, we have nothing against talking to South Africa. Our lines are always open, but we will always challenge misinformation and lies.
Fine, but I mean, at this point in time, there's no plan to approach South Africa. You're waiting for them.
Oh, we did approach them with the truth of the president's tweets.
I understand, but I mean, that's the public tweet, but there's no private approach to them even now to say, have you seen
we've been talking.
You have been
officials
talking.
We've been talking. It's just that if South African officials are going to go public with private conversations, they should put out the truth.
Okay. Just the last thing. Let's go back to your point about the turning point. What would you like to see then finally happening if this marks the turning point in Goma? What would you like to see happening, playing out in that region?
We would like to see a political solution, a long-lasting one. We would like Rwanda's security concerns to be taken seriously, and for there to be a framework of security guarantees in our border area, and ultimately, we want to work with our neighbors, with DRC, with Uganda and Kenya and the rest, so we can build this region together. There's so much potential in this region, and the people of this region deserve stability, they deserve security, they deserve peace, and they deserve development. And we can do that if we work together.
And I did say lastly, but I'll give another lastly. When we saw the tweets, it's amazing how many people say, well, you see these two countries, South Africa and Rwanda, this is all war talk. Look what's going to happen between these countries. Can I say that outside the barking by your president, both your country and my country knows they really won't be at war with each other? I mean, there's just so much to lose for themselves and for the entire continent, isn't it?
War is never good, but I saw a lot of comments from South Africans who appreciated the honesty, and it confirmed their own suspicions on the lies that they were hearing from their officials and the contradictions. So I think it was important to clarify, and I think there's scope for us to continue as two brotherly countries, and we're always open to discussing that.
Okay, our lines are always open, as you have said, Yolande Makolo. Thank you for keeping your lines open for us to talk to you, and I'm sure we'll have further conversations down the line. Spokesperson for the government of Rwanda, much appreciate your time. And it does mean you listening, the national audience on the National Pulse, have lots to say, and we're going to get your calls as soon as we can, right? Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Daneo.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories: Reserve Bank cuts rates by 25 basis points and Israel suspends release of Palestinian prisoners. A very good afternoon. Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago has announced that the Monetary Policy Committee has decided to cut rates by 25 basis points, meaning that the prime lending rate decreases to 11%. It's the third consecutive rate cut by a central bank. Kganyago made the announcement in Pretoria. He says core inflation remains elevated.
In the near term, inflation appears well contained. However, the medium-term outlook is more uncertain than usual, with material risks from external environment. Domestic factors such as administered prices are also problematic. Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points with effect from the 31st of January 2025.
In other news, suspended Exxaro CEO Nombasa Tsengwa is in the High Court in Pretoria to challenge her interim removal as CEO of the mining company. Tsengwa was placed on suspension by the company's board over claims related to workplace conduct and governance practice. The board also tasked law firm ENS to probe allegations, including criticisms of Tsengwa's management style on accusations of bullying and intimidation. She's also accused of failing to implement Exxaro's strategy to diversify away from coal. The matter is sitting before Judge Ncedisi Khumalo, where Tsengwa's lawyer advocate JP Law raised the constitutionality and validity of the suspension.
Our case is different from what managing directors were before 2008. The CEO in this case gets his or her powers directly from the constitution of the company, not from the directors. It's not for them to suspend it. What they can do is they can revoke the appointment and they can withdraw the person. They can't suspend because the CEO is different. The CEO, insofar as the management and affairs of the company is concerned, is the company, and that's the point.
Staying in the courts, this time in Limpopo, a 27-year-old man accused of kidnapping and raping two nurses at Hatshoeni Clinic near Leboagomo has abandoned his bail application at the Polokwane Magistrates Court. Johannes Sateghe is facing 19 additional charges, including attempted murder, aggravated robbery, kidnapping, and 4 rape charges. He was arrested at Rapiri village outside Polokwane. Magistrate Mpho Radebe has postponed the matter to April 9 for further investigations.
This matter is then remanded to the 9th of April 2025 for further investigations. Since the accused person has abandoned bail in this matter, he is therefore remanded in custody.
We move to KZN now, where former President Jacob Zuma says charges leveled against his daughter Duduzile Zuma Sambudla are baseless and unfounded. Zuma was addressing hundreds of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party supporters outside the Durban Magistrates Court. Zuma Sambudla, who has been released on warning, appeared on a charge of incitement to commit terrorism and 2 counts of incitement to commit public violence. The state is alleging that during the period from 29 June to 17th July 2021, in various places, she unlawfully and intentionally incited others to commit terrorism using social media posts, notably via her Twitter, now X account. Zuma elaborates.
They want to check Twitter and they found my daughter saying, I see you. Please tell me, if you're not on Twitter and say I see you, is that the case? That is what you're here for today. My daughter wrote on Twitter and she has been charged today. What are you saying on a country that is led by black people? What are we going to do? Because this means whoever writes on Twitter, he or she will be persecuted.
We see you. Uchajiwe namhlanje. Ithina uma kunje ezweni lethu ephethwe abantu
Lastly, further afield, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz have ordered a delay in the release of Palestinian prisoners. This comes after chaotic scenes in Khan Yunis during the transfer of 7 hostages. Netanyahu's office says the delay will be in place until the safe exit of the hostages is guaranteed in the next few days. Israel is demanding that the mediators achieve this. Recapping the top story this hour, Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago has announced that the Monetary Policy Committee has decided to cut rates by 25 basis points, meaning that the prime lending rate decreases to 11%. For SFM News, I'm Dinomo Daung. The next update is at 4:30.
In your sports this hour, Newcastle Chiefs signing to miss Soweto Derby and Raducanu offered wildcard for Abu Dhabi Open. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Bedfordview is queuing towards Van Buren Road. The R59 southbound in Alberton has a crash before Swartkoppies Road exit. Winnie Mandela Drive in Sandton has delays between Peter Place and Republic Road, and the N40 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards the R101 interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound, a stationary truck before Cliffdale. The N3 eastbound in Ashburton has a stationary truck after Market Road exit. The N2 southbound has a crash after the M41 Gateway exit. The N2 southbound, a stationary vehicle after Umgeni Road, and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound is queuing towards Kromboom Road exit. The M3 both ways queuing towards Rhodes Drive. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange, and the N7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
Santam can cover your car in just 2 minutes. That's faster than staring into your fridge, convinced there's nothing to eat, with hopes that something new magically appears. Only to end up ordering the same meal you had yesterday. Get your car covered in just 2 minutes so you can live in the moment, not in the worry. Visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
With Ford's Blue Sky offers, get a new Ranger XL from just $5,899 per month, including our optional service plan. 10% deposit, prime less 4.75%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford family guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. T&Cs apply.
V up your 2025 with Vodacom Business and Galaxy AI. Save up to 20,000 Rand with trade-in when you pre-order the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra 256 gig on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for just 1,539 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal with the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM for 69 Rand extra per month. Available in-store and online. Further together. Vodacom Business.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I tell you what, that conversation with Yolandi Makolo is like a whole essay in its own right. Please listen to the podcast. Vusani will put it up as soon as possible. Check it out, safm.co.za. Go to the website. There's so much to take out of it, and I'm sure South Africa, international relations, DIRCO will do the same thing as well as the government in terms of what was said. Maybe none of it is a surprise for them, and I'm not saying she's right. All I'm saying is listen to it. There's so much that has come from it. We've got your calls. Well, of course, could not take your calls earlier on because of my chat with the spokesperson for the government of Rwanda, but we'll take the calls as soon as possible. There's 1 or 2 comments we can play right now. Here we are.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Garda and your hardworking team of producers behind you. My name is Mpepu Mpiren from Limpopo, Mkumbane village. Ashraf, today I want to touch Zuma family before the eyes of the law. Duduzile Zuma was in court today. The law won't find her guilty, to me.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yugoslavian mercenaries, Burundi soldiers, DRC soldiers all surrendering to M23 rebels. Something smells very, very fishy here. There's a lot of propaganda, disinformation and misinformation coming both from the president of the Congo and Mr. Kagame. And this speech from Mr. Kagame is a classic example of someone who is acting as an agent provocateur. And I'm beginning to actually take this idea that Mr. Kagame is backing M23 rebels with a pinch of salt. This might actually be a special operating forces of the DRC's army. Thanks, Lionel Whitbank.
For that, Lionel, let's get another quick comment before we get to Sophie Mokoena.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Makwara Shinyazo from Tembo. You know, Ashraf, the Rwandan president, with his own words, he is totally declaring the war against South Africa and also against the SADC region. You know, he is totally disrespecting the entire African continent that want peace. You know, this man does not even consider the sovereignty of another country. And he is also the man who is backing those M23 rebels. You know, even if he can deny it, but is the reason behind that attacks in DRCs. You know, this man must be dealt with him harshly. Why are the international communities not making noise? They must make noise about this smaller country like Rwanda and even to an extent of imposing harsh sanctions against them.
I hear you. I don't know whether the size of the country really matters. Big country, small country. I mean, some are the same about South Africa in relation to other countries. But okay, let's pause on that, right? Let's now get Sophie Mokoena, who's like working overtime. I have no doubt about that. Sophie, my goodness, I mean, these are the type of stories you can't pause. This is like your World Cup.
Yes, you can't pause because there's back and forth. One of the voice messages pointing out that both sides or all sides would want to put forward their own position in this, and therefore you have to sift through all that information. And secondly, you have to have an understanding of what has been happening with this DRC story for quite a long time, so that you are able to put a context in everything that's being said, that's happening, and perhaps what's likely going to happen. You must try to ensure that you speak to different stakeholders who are involved in this issue for a long time, and the current role players in all sides. You speak to EAC, you speak to SADC, you speak to UN, you speak to DRC, you speak to Rwanda, you speak to all countries that are involved.
All right, so let's talk about it. I mean, you just made the point. I promise you, myself and I think even the entire National Pulse audience listening, sometimes it's difficult to decipher who's speaking the reality. I won't even say the truth. Who's speaking the reality? The Rwandans have got one narrative. The Congolese have got another narrative. South Africa certainly has another narrative. It's very, very difficult. Just very in short, what is your understanding of what has happened over the last few days?
Well, I think what has happened is that, when the conflict intensified, and clearly the M23 rebels were well armed, and they were able to launch those attacks and push towards Goma. Maybe people were not monitoring in terms of when they were building capacity. That would have enabled them to push as they have done this time around. And the other issue is, I think you need sober minds that can assist in ensuring that there's ceasefire, there's truce for a moment or a pause, while you engage in negotiations to find a lasting solution. That's all what's needed. And therefore, you have to be inclusive when you do that, because if you're not inclusive, those who might be excluded might come back to fight. And therefore, you will have a situation of M23 rebels. And therefore, whoever is helping in this situation, the regional organizations, SADC and East Africa, the UN, and those countries that have relationship with these different players in that conflict, must take that into consideration.
Okay, so some thoughts. I mean, you're aware we chatted to Yolande Makhola earlier on, the spokesperson for the Rwandan government, and I mean, she made a few comments. One, she made the point very clear that everybody should empathize with the position of the M23. That means, in fact, the Rwandans are supportive, and she says everybody should empathize with them. That's point one. Point two, South Africa effectively have sided with the Congolese on the wrong side of justice. I'm paraphrasing, meaning she's suggesting South Africa's got it wrong, and therefore the M23 and those who support them are the enemies of Rwanda. And whether she's staying away from calling South Africa enemies, she's certainly clear that the DRC are the enemies there. But South Africa, according to them, have got this whole issue completely wrong in terms of which side of the fence they're sitting on now. What have you made of the pronouncements from multiple sides in the last few days, maybe starting with South Africa?
I think here and there were problems in terms of statements or in terms of answering questions by officials that led to a situation where you opened up a passage for such responses. And therefore, what needs to happen is to tighten the communication, but also for officials in government to ensure that they put proper information, well-researched, well-sifted and edited information in terms of you are sure this word is not going to cause misunderstanding. And therefore, you will be able to continue to communicate your position. On the other hand, Rwanda must also do the same. They must know that war talk doesn't assist in any shape or form. Beating of drums can cause mayhem in terms of the psyche of the nations and the continent. And therefore, there must be, people must really, really be responsible as they respond.
But don't you think sometimes that type of war talk is a negotiation? Let me give you an example. I think a week before Donald Trump was inaugurated, he spoke about the issue of the Palestinians, and he said if there's no ceasefire in that region, right, all hell will break loose. Within a couple of days, we all now know that he was the prime mover in enabling that ceasefire. So what I'm saying to you is, like, one thing is what a president says publicly in terms of war talk, but the other is what are they really pushing in terms of what is the end goal to this?
Well, you are correct. You will find that in the public gallery, you have both sides, all sides, not only South Africa, not only DRC, not only Rwanda, not only Angola and Uganda, making those statements that may lead to more tension. But behind the scenes, the discussions are different. When you looked at President Ramaphosa's body language yesterday, it didn't give an indication of a fight behind the scenes. But when we wake up today, we see a President Kagame who's very angry because of one or two issues that are problematic in a statement or during answering of questions. So you are correct. Maybe he's pushing for something behind the scenes because they still have to discuss with Rwanda how Rwanda engages M23, because there's no way South Africa will speak directly to M23 rebels so that you can bring back the bodies.
Okay,
and you need passage. And therefore, the negotiations behind the scenes might be very, very different.
I'm sure of that, right? So two things very quickly then. How do you answer, based on your knowledge of international relations, right, the position of many people from listening to the show, like, what is South Africa doing there in the first instance? Like, what are they doing there, number one? And number two, just your thoughts in terms of how South Africa has come out or emerged as a country in the last few days. Meaning, have they come out with their reputation intact? Have they found themselves as a reputation been bruised? How has South Africa come out? You got about a minute and a half to answer that.
Well, clearly there are problems in terms of some of the communication and particularly what has transpired, but it's not too late. South Africa has been a country, its foreign policy is anchored on peace and reconciliation, better Africa, better world. And they can still use that motto or that foreign policy pillar to change the situation around. It's not too late. It's not too late.
But would you agree that South Africa has suffered from some reputation damage in the last few days? Even though we've had a loss of lives, yeah.
All stakeholders have suffered reputational damage because you have people who feel strong that President Kagame's tone is unprecedented and it's not diplomatic.
Okay.
You have a situation, people who are saying, President Tshisekedi, you've put us into this mess. You have people who are saying, East Africa, you are biased. We are people who are going to say, SADC, you are biased. So everybody's affected.
Yeah.
That's why you need sober minds.
All right. Lastly, very quickly, what, in your opinion, do you think South Africa should do, and what do you think they are doing? Can you tell us anything that you know?
South Africa must continue to take cue from the region. That meeting tomorrow will come with a way forward. South Africa must continue to engage those they can engage, and also to ensure that you bring back those soldiers who were killed in that standoff. That should be the primary focus. But the UN is there. They can use UN channels to communicate the statement and South Africa's position.
Okay.
Therefore, that's what South Africa must do.
Okay.
And I think
that's where we're going to
that's what they will be doing.
Thank you for that, Sophie Mokoena, the SABC News International Relations Editor, in fact, very, very busy at this crazy time.
Compliments for 2025, Mangani. Call me Mabel Goals because I'm coming for it all this year. Body, relationship, and financial goals. With my Just Invest account, financially I'm cruising. 2 more to go. You know any available Prince Charming voice man?
I've got you, Mabel. Sorry. Mara, you can also be like Mabel and earn up to 8.25% in interest to start the year right. Open yours via the Money app today. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply. Go to nedbank.co.za for more information.
There will be joy and heartbreak at the Groenkloof Tennis Stadium in Pretoria. South Africa takes on Nigeria. The South is up against the West. This is the Davis Cup World Group 2 tie, the World Cup of tennis. Witness the spectacular tennis battle between South Africa and Nigeria on Saturday 1 February at 11 a.m. and Sunday 2 February at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. You can also catch the Sunday action on SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, and don't forget, we'll have another take on that issue when we're chatting to Tebogo Ditshego. He's a communications expert, so we'll talk about how, the reputation management aspect and how they've communicated in a crisis, all the countries involved. But for now, let's get back home for a change and talk about something completely different, but it is, even then, a cause for huge concern. Tensions, they've been high at the Johannesburg Social Housing Company complex in Kliptown. That's close to Soweto, of course, following the standoff between residents and the police yesterday. Now, what actually is the story? What sparked it off? What needs to happen? What's going to happen next? With me is we have Intabiseng Impela, who's the Josh Co. Communications and Marketing Manager. Intabiseng, thank you for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So we speak about tensions being high yesterday. What's it like today, firstly?
Okay, so today, I guess you're referring to the tension that took place in Kliptown Square Flats.
Yes, that's right.
Today we had an opportunity to engage the tenant representatives at the offices of City Power, and they were a little bit calm because we then sat obviously in a boardroom setting, and we had to explain what the main objective of the operation is. And I can safely say they are willing to listen to us, and we are yet to conclude on the way forward with City Power. And I think tomorrow would be a good day to communicate what the way forward would be.
Okay, what's the essence of the issue here? What's happened?
So City Power embarked on let's call it a blitz, for lack of a better word, to go and audit meters within Joshko projects. And I think they had covered Kliptown, they covered City Deep, and I think they mentioned Bokamoso, which is in Devland. So when they did that, they had not involved Joshko. So the tenants are really not happy with the fact that City Power was on the ground and Joshko was not, and there was no prior communication. But what then City Power said is that there was no way that we were going to tell the tenants that we're coming, because then they would go and then try and cover whatever illegal activities. So we then decided, okay, there's been a first presser that went out by City Power. Why don't we join the operation? And this time what our function would be is to enhance compliance, talk to our tenants really, and heighten the issue of following, the necessary or abiding to the necessary regulations, and to prevent financial and infrastructural strain for the city. Of course, we condemn, alongside City Power, any illegal activities in Joshko project, and we will do what needs to be done to ensure that the tenants do the right thing next time.
And this illegal connections, I mean, that relates to what? Electricity connections, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
mainly electricity. I mean, Joburg Water was formed part of the joint operation yesterday, but they then realized that there's no bridging there on their end.
So how widespread is the problem? And one thing is the residents, debating whether Joshko should come with the City Power, and they can have that debate all day long. But at its core is many of them are connecting illegally. Many may say they do so because they can't afford any other way. They're really struggling to make ends meet. And then from your side, clearly, is you don't want to encourage that. You can't turn a blind eye to that. So in essence, on that basis, where do you take this issue next?
So it's becoming apparent that most of our projects have the same problem. Our function as Joshko is to play a stakeholder relation role, because we cannot overstep on the mandate of City Power. So what we plan on doing is to continue with these operations. However, we are going to communicate with our tenants to say, listen, to invite them, those that have bridged, we are going to communicate to them to say, if you know you have bridged and there are reasons that relate to your income or whatever the reason, whatever social related issues, we are inviting them, because we need to know what their problems are. And there are many other alternatives within the city of Joburg that we can refer them to. But the thing that we cannot do, unfortunately, and that we need to put on record, is to stand against what City Power is trying to achieve, because the city's revenue is suffering, and we are also running at a loss as an entity. And we're trying by all means to feel for our tenants, to try and negotiate with City Power. I mean, the biggest issue that they were complaining about was the reconnection fee. And like I said, we had a meeting with City Power. We're working around that, and we will see if we're able to advocate for them. But we are not in agreement with bridging of meters or any other illegality.
Okay, is there a way around it? I mean, we must concede the fact that the type of residents you refer to are the ones. I mean, listen, everyone is struggling at the moment. When the country says we have no money, even when the Deputy Minister of Defence says we don't have budget, and the Minister of Health says we have no budget to hire doctors. I mean, we have a problem, right? So when these people who are the lowest income groups say they have no money, but they still want the most basic things in life, which is they want water and they need lights, what is then the humane answer to resolve this problem?
Without trying to play PR, but to call it what it is. We've got many avenues within Joshko, and I don't want to speak for the city power. There's a lot of steps that the tenants have been exposed to, even prior, to say you need to reach out to our revenue department. One, you also have the SHRA that had a relief fund. I think after COVID, everyone had issues, of income. There was a relief fund. We communicated with our tenants to say you need to come forward, but you need to satisfy their qualifying criteria, right? But in Joshko, before you even get to a point where you're owing us up to 3 months or more than that, we're saying come to us, let us assess what the issues are. And if we need to refer you, we will then do that. But find that there's a little bit of resistance because people think we resort to evictions as opposed to trying to resolve the issue.
Well, I mean, that leaves me with this last point before we get to news. So very quickly, it makes sense that they would come to you, but you also know human beings tend to resist. They keep the problem away just by staying away from it. But we are dealing with people who are truly struggling, so they're not going to think in the same way as a university professor who's trying to problem solve. Meaning that, is there not a way to say, forget them coming to us, as you would, to quote you, to say, go to them, be upfront with them to say, we're actually going to help you?
That's precisely the reason why we met with the residents of City Deep and Kliptown today. It wasn't only Kliptown. It's because we are hearing that they are struggling. But I cannot now announce on radio before we even confirm if City Power is going to accept what we've put on the table. I'm not at liberty to discuss it now, but like I said, we will be able to communicate it even through the media tomorrow for sure, to say what will be the way forward.
Well,
but we do feel for our residents.
Thanks for being so upfront about it. When you know the story, please let us know. We certainly we need to reflect that because this show is a reflection of the national pulse. So thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Intabi Singh Impela, the Joshko Communications and Marketing Manager. It's such a reflection of what happens on the ground in so many townships in South Africa. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Danayo Matau.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 4:30. Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago says 4 members of the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee supported a rate cut, while 2 wanted to keep rates steady. The bank has decided to cut rates by 25 basis points, taking the repo rate down to 7.5% and the prime lending rate to 11%. In other news, suspended Exxaro CEO Nombasa Tsengwa is in the High Court in Pretoria to challenge her interim removal as CEO of the mining company. And still in the courts, former President Jacob Zuma says charges leveled against his daughter Duduzile Zuma Sambudla are baseless and unfounded. Zuma was addressing hundreds of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party supporters outside the Durban's Magistrates Court. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Rose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Fairland has a crash before Bears-Naudé Drive exit. The N14 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards the R101 interchange. In Bedfordview, the N3 northbound slow moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Kilolis interchange, and the N3 southbound has a crash reported near Van Buren Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Ashburton has a stationary truck after Market Road exit. The M19 westbound in Westville has a stationary vehicle just before Dunkeld Road exit. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road. The R300 northbound is slow moving on the ramp to the N1 outbound carriageway, and the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, let's break from all the big news stories with the news of sport. Tumi, go for it.
All right, let's start things off with football again this hour, where Kaizer Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi has confirmed that Wandile Duba will miss the Soweto derby against the Orlando Pirates due to injury. The 20-year-old has been one of Amakosi's key players under Nabi, scoring 4 goals in 14 league matches so far. However, he picked up an injury in Chiefs' 1-0 win over Sekhukhune, and Nabi confirmed the winger will be out for 1.5 months. Another player to miss out is Amakosi's new signing signing Tashreeq Morris. Now, Morris is amongst the players suspended for this weekend's game. He's still serving a suspension from the red card that he received while playing for SuperSport United against Kukune United earlier this month. And the good news for Chiefs, though, is that coach Nabi has finished his 2-match suspension and will be allowed to return to the bench during the Soweto derby. Elsewhere, Borussia Dortmund have appointed Croatian Niko Kovac as manager after the Bundesliga club sacked Nuri Sahin last week. Sahin was let go after the club started 2025 with 4 straight losses in all competitions, with Mike Talberg taking interim charge in their last 2 games. Now, Kovac, who previously coached Dortmund's rival Bayern Munich and led them to the league and cup double in 2018-19 season, has signed a contract until June 2026. In athletics, South African marathon champion Sian Oldno has confirmed that she will not defend her national title this year due to her ongoing recovery. The Athletics South Africa Marathon Championship, incorporated into the Cape Peninsula Marathon, is scheduled for the 16th of February. However, Oldno says that she is still recovering from the Cape Town Marathon, which she ran in October, and she and her coach felt the event was too soon for her to compete in.
In the marathon, I'm not sure, because that's on the 16th of Feb, and after October Cape Town Marathon last year, we took a recovery block and we've slowly been getting back into training, so I'm not quite ready for a marathon in February. Definitely not. February was just a little bit too close to get back out there for a marathon. I'm at peace with it. I think I really needed to put my body first and recover. Last year took a big toll on me, and I think just looking after myself sets me up for a really good year ahead. So I wish everyone good luck who is going for the marathon title, and yeah, I hope the best lady wins out there.
In rugby, Leicester Tigers have announced that Director of Rugby Michael Cheika will leave the end of the season after opting not to extend his contract with the Premiership club. The 57-year-old signed a 1-year deal before the start of the current season, but said last week that talks about his future had been pushed back following a humiliating 80-12 defeat by Toulouse in the Investec Champions Cup. And then in tennis, Britain's Emma Raducanu will play in a qualifying draw for the first time since her fairy tale run to the 2021 US Open title after being offered a wild card to the preliminary stage of next week's Abu Dhabi Open. Raducanu is traveling with her fitness trainer Yutaka Namamura, but she is without her coach following Nick Cavade's decision to step down for health reasons. So it seems like we are receiving some answers from the question that I asked earlier.
All right, hold it. Have we got a drum roll? I'm just trying to check. Can we play a drum roll? For the winner?
No, we don't have a winner yet.
Oh, okay.
We don't have a winner yet. We do
so
have
now
answers.
We're going into extra time.
Yeah, we're literally going into extra time.
There's going to be a penalty shootout.
And you're not able to see the answers there, ne? You're not. No. But I do know that there are numbers that are close enough. The question was, if you just joined us...
what's the competition? Not everybody heard from the beginning of the show.
So basically, I'm giving away double tickets to the Soweto Derby. And the question is, how many players, all in all, have played for both Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates? And from what I'm understanding...
Did I say 11?
You said 11, and 11 is completely wrong. I can assure you. But from the answers that we've received, the closest, one of the closest, let me just say one, is 13.
So how can 11 be completely wrong and the 13 is... I mean,
okay,
I'm close.
It's wrong. You're close. You're also close. You're actually very close.
Okay, so 13 is the closest.
13 is close, I guess. Yes.
So I thought when you said 11 was wrong, you're going to say it's less than 11, but clearly it's more than 11.
It's more than
13.
It's more.
So are you going to give the answer now?
No, I'll give the answer at 5:30.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Let's see if we'll have a winner.
Let them continue. All right. So 11 is wrong. We know that. 13 is wrong. We know that. But as Tumi said, it's the closest. So if the answer is 50 and nobody else is higher than 13, then you'd be the winner. If it's 50, I'm saying, okay, did you hear me correctly? Because you would be the closest. So it's up to you to, if you don't take part, you can never win, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. Okay, that's it. Can I have a look at the tickets? No.
I'll bring it next
right.
hour.
I thought I could just, share it. Okay. More sports.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Susampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to those facts and figures with Makwe Masilela, who is the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good to connect as always. So what are the facts and figures locally and globally?
Afternoon to you and to the listeners. Ashraf, the U.S. Central Bank held interest rates steady overnight as widely expected, with the Fed chair saying that there will be no rush to cut them again, and that was a clear message that it intends to keep interest rates unchanged for longer. And Trump's policies remain a risk for the Fed's policy outlook, and Saturday is likely to see new tariffs slapped on Canada, Mexico, and possibly China as well. And we started the session looking forward to our interest rate decision and that of the European Central Bank, and as expected, our central bank lowered borrowing costs by 25 basis points, and that is for a third straight meeting. And while warning that the risk to the inflation outlook have increased, basically being cautious of further rate cuts, and that's amid an uncertain global environment. And 2 of the 6 members voted to leave rates unchanged, and European Central Bank as well delivered as expected, cutting by 25 basis points while keeping the door open to further policy easing. And after falling in October and November, our producer prices returned to inflationary territory in December, increasing by 0.7%, and the US GDP growth expanded at a solid pace of 2.3% in Q4. That was fueled by consumer spending. Oil prices dipped slightly before turning positive as attention is on tariffs, threats by Trump on Mexico and Canada. Remember, those are the 2 largest suppliers of crude to the US. Brent crude is up 0.4% at $76 a barrel. And while waiting for the U.S. key inflation report tomorrow, the yellow metal is benefiting from safe haven demand because of tariff worries. And we see the yellow metal is up almost 1% at 2,783. Platinum is down 0.2% at 966. Global markets are cautiously up, with the JSE up 0.3%. And we are getting support from our resources, which are up 1.4%. The rand firmed a mere 0.1% against the US dollar, is now at 18.49, 23.04 against the pound, and 19.28 against the euro.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Makwe. We'll connect with you again tomorrow. There will be another market update coming up in just about about 50 odd minutes as well.
The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
This trend is going to undo marriage, where people just feel, look, let's just stay together and let's not sign no document.
You know, one of the things in my observation that I've learned over the years is that probably a lot of people don't understand the options that they have in terms of marital contracts, number one. And I think a lot of people have gotten into marital contracts that may not have been favorable. And I think we learn from those that have done it before us. So therefore we choose not to go that route.
Queen Malobane, Provincial General Manager at Metropolitan.
Bertha Charuma, Fridays, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, I mean, 2 things. Tumi desperately wants you to get those numbers right. So come on, think about it. How many players, Kaizer Chiefs, Pirates players, have sort of crossed over to the other side. They played for both clubs, right? You need to get the number right for her to give you those tickets. I have no influence in that matter. Don't ask me, but you can certainly, you can certainly send a message, text message 0614 104 107, right? If you're up to being really bright, what about you naming the whole lot? If you got the time, just do it. Let's see how bright you really are on that issue, right? Okay, we're going to take your calls very shortly. And I know if I were you, I would certainly comment on the issue of Rwanda and South Africa first up. No question about that. But that comes up in a moment. To set the scene, however, let's do this. About a year ago, just less than a year, I think around April of last year, the former South African President Thabo Mbeki, he expressed himself. He gave his thoughts on the current conflict in the DRC. Remember, he spends lots of time trying to be a peacemaker on the continent, and he gave this lecture about the problems of the conflict in the DRC in one of his lectures at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. It's about 7 minutes long. I would strongly suggest you listen to every word.
We've been arguing with regard to the Great Lakes, not the Great Lakes, to the Eastern Congo. Is that there's a problem in the Congo which has not been resolved up to today. I'm talking about the DRC. We're back to that NDR I was talking about. As you know, part of the population in the Eastern Congo is Rwanda speaking, the Banyamulenge. Part of the problem in the Congo is that from the days of Mobutu, they refused to recognize that the Banyamulenge are Congolese. They might be Rwanda speaking, but these are Congolese. And it's the responsibility of any government in Kinshasa to look after this section of the Congolese population like any other. But you remember what happened during the Mobutu years. Mobutu took the position that these are foreigners. It's like the South Africans here saying, they're Tswana-speaking people here in the Northwest. And suddenly the rest of the country says, those are not South Africans, they must go to Botswana. So what happened in the Congo case, that's how you had the Mai Mai emerge in the Eastern Congo. The Mai Mai were specifically targeting the Banyamulenge to drive them out of the Congo into Rwanda. But I'm saying it's the responsibility of the central government in the Congo to look after this population, which is Congolese. It's not Rwandan. It's Congolese. It's Rwandan speaking. That's the first problem. The second problem is that the administrative footprint of the government in Kinshasa does not reach the east. So you find a part as is part of the country which has got a very light experience of being governed by the government in Kinshasa. The country is very big. So you have a weak government, weak imprint of the government on the east. It means other forces emerge and take over. You see the M23. You can't avoid the phenomenon of the M23 as the government of the Congo unless you say we, the Congolese government, will protect the Banyamulenge because these are Congolese. If you don't say that, allowing other people to do as they wish towards the Banyamulenge, then M23 will continue to exist. Because they will get arms to defend themselves. So it's the same, is that problem in the Kivus of that weak imprint of the government, and then goes up to the Ituri and then those areas. We discussed that with President Joseph Kabila. It's your responsibility to look after these people in the East. You remember during the negotiations here at Sun City, you had 3 armed groups. You had the government armed group, you had Bamba's armed group, you had the third one. It's led by an advocate, which was basically representing the Banyamulenge. It was agreed, it was part of the negotiators, it's Congolese, and no problem. Even after the conclusion of the negotiations, there were discussions about how to integrate them properly into the government of the Congo and all of that. But that process collapsed somewhere. So I'm saying, my brother, what we need to do with regard to the Eastern Congo is President Tshisekedi should say to everybody, I'm president of the Congo, and I'm president of all of the people of the Congo, including the Banyamulenge. And then they need to do whatever they can, the government in Kinshasa, really to improve its capacity to govern the eastern part of the Congo. And the other thing we then did, my brother, in that context, we brought together President Kabila and President Paul Kagame to say, you need to govern your relationship in a particular way. Because part of the problem, as you know, is that the people who had committed genocide in Rwanda ran over to the Eastern Congo. And so the people in Rwanda are saying, those ones you are accommodating there, they are the ones who want to kill us. They've killed us already, they want to kill us some more. So how do you govern this relationship? So we negotiated an agreement, or let me say they negotiated an agreement about how to interact with each other. Because you can't disentangle them, the Rwanda and the DRC. Agreed, and the thing was signed. I think it collapsed along the way. But you need that, you need those processes. As I was saying, the government of the Congo to take charge of the Eastern Congo, all of it. Then we need an agreement between the DRC, Uganda, and Rwanda in particular, to govern the relations among those three. I think that's what you need in order to resolve the problem in the Eastern Congo. Yeah.
Okay, to confirm that, the voice of Thabo Mbeki, former president, was not responding to what's happened over the last few days. That was around April of last year, but there's a lot of insights that we can learn from. Now, let's get your thoughts, your calls, because I have my view, but I simply want to get, you have your fingers on the pulse. I want to hear it.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, first up we go to Imbowana in Mahikeng. Go for it, Imbowana. What's your point?
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, the problem of what is happening in DRC, we must treat it the same problem as Mozambique, because this is threat to our continent and to our country. Because so many people are losing lives, our soldiers are dying. So our president should take a stand of treating this as a serious. Because why this thing is happening? Some time ago we did hear from people saying the NGOs got their hands into all these African conflicts because of minerals that is surrounding us. So our president should stand with the SADC presidents to go and defend our continent.
Okay, I got that.
Yeah.
Defend the continent and not rest on their laurels. Got that in Mbowana rather. Eli in Kadeha, go for it.
Yes, good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you very much for the air time.
Pleasure. And
we would like to send our deepest condolences to the fallen soldiers of South Africa and give many thanks to the Commander-in-Chief of the SANDF. I'm a Congolese national who was raised actually in Rwanda, grew up in Rwanda. I have a privilege of knowing Rwanda, knowing Congo, and knowing South Africa. And
we should make you the Minister of Information if that's the case. I mean, you're
thank you very much.
Qualified. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm very disappointed with the spokesperson of Rwanda.
Yeah.
You can lie to 1,000 people, but you will never lie to a whole world. We know very well that this problem of Rwanda and Congo started after the genocide of 1994, which I was witness as well. So Kagame is using his power and his might and all the power that have given to him by the West to destabilize this Congo, not because of ethnic group or NFDLR or Tutsi Banyamulenge or anyone, but is to loot the minerals of Congo. More than 30 years, more than 30 million people dead. We're turning a blind eye. The UN peacekeeping force have been there while people are being killed. There was a shift in dynamics after the Samir force was sent. They are there, yes, to peacekeeping as the soldiers with guns, but to defend as well where there is actually problems when they are attacked. So Rwanda have seen this shift in this dynamic of not only now witnessing the people dying, 10 million people dead, but now there is now also a shift in protecting as well this population, marginalized populations. You know, as Africans, we have to ask ourselves, Kagame was being praised the best president, but this man is a killer. He's a killer. We've been living with Rwanda for so many years.
I mean, you're right. I mean, look, you're right about the fact that he, like many other leaders, not just African leaders, but global leaders, have got this mixed personality in terms of what they do. For many people, he's this leader, the authoritarian leader, but tremendously innovative. But again, some come out straight out to say, well, you know, he's authoritarian, and that is what gets him away. You win an election with 98%. Clearly, something doesn't match up. But Ilan, because you're from Congo, here's a quick one for you, right? Do you then think, going back to the conversation with the spokesperson for the Rwandan government, and I'm hoping people listen to the podcast if they've missed it, right, that in fact they're not just empathizing with what is considered the rebels, depends on who you speak to, but they actively supporting them financially and in terms of the mission plan as well. That means the rebels exist because of Rwanda. Or not?
Yes, the rebel exists because of Rwanda, but soldiers of Rwanda armed forces have been killed several times in Congo. They cross over the border. They support these forces through the night. And we know what is happening. Rwanda is actively involved in this. And Tshisekedi, when he was elected, he approached Kagame. He says, let's stop this thing. We know that you don't have minerals, but we can work together to... all those minerals will never profit Congo alone, even you. Yeah. You know what happened? Kagame stepped in the back.
Okay.
I'm not a pro-government, I'm not a politician, but we follow these things closely.
Right.
So this man is destabilizing for the purpose of the mineral to go to the West, not even Chinese. Chinese are there, they're exploiting it legally.
Okay, well,
But
the truth will come out, right? Let's leave it at that, Eli. Thanks, because I just need to move on. Let's see what happens. I mean, you know, we can't take any spokesperson what they say at face value, South African or Rwandan. They talk and we listen, and it's up to us to analyze all that from multiple sources and do a double check on that. Denzel in Kimberley, go for it.
Ashraf, if I analyze this is actually very scary because Rwanda, if I analyze it from Rwanda's point of view, they are burdened, they are challenging South Africa. This is scary because they've been highlighted they are the economy of Africa. They are better than South Africa. So who's funding them? Who's behind them?
So what do you think? Do you know or not?
Like the person from Congo just said, is coming from the West. Trump has just pushed us aside recently. That is very scary. But thank you for the clip of Mbeki. But this is a SADC peacekeeping mission. This is from our presidential spokesperson, Vincent. The troops were from SADC are involved. Why? It's a pity that SA troops have passed on or they are killed in this mission. My question is, why are we singled out? And this is my answer. We are singled out because of poor communication of our ministers.
Well, we're going to talk about communication. My next guest, I'm going to leave it at that. My next guest, Tebogo Ditshego, will talk just about that, how South Africa has communicated this crisis in East Africa. Let's see if I've got one more I can play right now. Maybe not. Let's just get to some of the other comments we've had, and we've had a whole range of other messages, people commenting about the players. The Chiefs won. Someone saying the number of the players, 29 that played for both clubs, including the low-profile players. Okay, there we are. Former President Mbeki's got it very wrong. He doesn't even know his history. Kagame has a mission to create an independent state in the east of Congo, for Tutsis specifically, according to Joseph, right? All right, let's do this. So let me tell you what else is coming up. We'll take further calls from around 5:45. We'll take a whole range all the way up to the top of the hour. But we'll chat to Tebogo Ditshego coming up. That's one. And then there's been developments regarding university fees and, students being able to allow, in fact, to go to university and apply and be accepted at Wits University because debts has been cleared around that. So I hear. So we'll get that story just now. But first things first, let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. A cut in rates and search for plane crash survivors in Washington, D.C. Good day to you. The Reserve Bank Governor, Lesetja Kganyago, says 4 members of the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee supported a rates cut, while 2 wanted to keep rates steady. The bank has decided to cut rates by 25 basis points, taking the repo rate down to 7.5% and the prime lending rate to 11%. The governor announced the decision at a media conference in Pretoria.
In the near term, inflation appears well contained. However, the medium-term outlook is more uncertain than usual, with material risks from external environment. Domestic factors such as administered prices are also problematic. Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points with effect from the 31st of January 2025.
14 learners have been injured after their minibus Scholar Transport collided with a bakkie outside Thohoyandou in Limpopo. The minibus was transporting learners to a secondary school when it collided with the bakkie. Traffic authorities say the cause of the crash is still under investigation. Suspended Exxaro CEO Nombasa Sengwa was in the High Court in Pretoria to challenge her interim removal as CEO of the mining company. She was placed on suspension by the company's board over claims related to workplace conduct and governance practice. The board also tasked a law firm to probe allegations, including accusations of bullying and intimidation. She's also accused of failing to implement Exxaro's strategy to diversify away from coal. Sengwa's lawyer, Advocate J.P. Lowe, raised the constitutionality and validity of the suspension.
They cannot suspend. There is no power of suspension. They can't take it away. Because if they take it away, there is no management and control of the company. It vests in the CEO. And that's the simple company law point on which the case rests. Our case is different from what managing directors were before 2008. The CEO in this case gets his or her powers directly from the constitution of the company, not from the directors. It's not for them to suspend it.
Former President Jacob Zuma says charges leveled against his daughter, Duduzile Zuma Sampudla, are baseless and unfounded. Zuma was addressing hundreds of MK Party supporters outside the Durban Magistrates Court. Zuma Sambudla, who has been released on warning, appeared on a charge of incitement to commit terrorism and 2 counts of incitement to commit public violence. The state is alleging that during the July unrest in 2021, she unlawfully and intentionally incited others to commit terrorism using social media posts, notably via her Twitter, now X account. Former President Zuma elaborates.
They want to check Twitter and they found my daughter saying, I see you. Please tell me, if you wrote on Twitter and say I see you, is that a case? That is what you are here for today. My daughter wrote on Twitter and she has been charged today. What are you saying on a country that is led by black people? What are we going to do? Because this means whoever writes on Twitter, he or she will be persecuted.
Rescue workers are continuing to search for plane crash survivors after pulling more than 30 bodies from a river near the Reagan-Washington National Airport in the U.S. At least 60 people are feared dead after American Airlines regional passenger plane collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
The 2 aircraft collided in mid-air near the Reagan Airport before crashing into the Potomac River at around 9 p.m. local time on Wednesday evening. The plane was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew, while the helicopter had 3 service personnel on board. Officials have since indicated that they don't believe there are any survivors. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom called the event devastating, explaining that their plane was on a final approach to the airport when it collided with a military aircraft on an otherwise normal landing sequence, and that they did not as yet know why the military aircraft came into the path of their plane. Chauvin Ricepeas, SABC News, New York.
Top story, the Reserve Bank governor says 4 members of the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee supported a rates cut while 2 wanted to keep rates steady. The bank has now decided to cut rates by 25 basis points. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
In your sports this hour, SA Under-19 women's side all set for semi-finals. US Open expands to a 15-day tournament in 2025. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Ashburton and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Koeberg Interchange, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the N7 Jakes Hadville Drive southbound is slow moving at Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, the third of the 3 hours of the National Pulse. Great that you're a part of it, and wonderful for the many people I know that listen to the entire show and the great feedback we get, whether you're from Joburg or from Jeffreys Bay, really, or Germiston, although Germs with a G, but it sounds like a J on air. Much appreciate you listening in to the show. Now, you can call in to 086 000 2032, WhatsApp, text or voice notes 0614 104 107. Do tweet as well. Many people tweeting about the Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, how many players have crossed over from one club to the other, meaning played for both clubs. But not just that, you can comment using that hashtag, the National Pulse, and give us your thoughts on the biggest issues. What for you is moving the National Pulse? Right, we're going to be chatting pretty shortly to Tebogo Ditsecho, but there's some other comments that I want to play from the many things that we've heard you talk about. So let's play some of them.
Ashraf, Skumbuzo here. Respect aside, our leaders in South Africa must stop lying. They must desist from feeding us lies. They know what mission they are pushing in the DRC. And this is going to affect us as a country. They must just desist from lying. They must be honest. Why are they going to DRC? Are they fighting or peace mission, whatever? From what I'm observing, they are there to fight with the DRC forces and the pretense of peacemaking. So they must stop lying, please.
Stop lying, please. Well, I tell you what, I've heard that from more than one person. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and your listeners. I totally disagree with President Mbeki speaking. Banyamulenge now, they are everywhere in Congo leadership. They are member of parliament, they are ministers like Minister Gisaro, they are in the army. Tribe, Banyamulenge tribe are the only tribe in DRC who have like more than 10 generals in army DRC. For example, now, commander of 3rd Division, it's Mnyamulenge. It's the one who fighting in DRC, Eastern DRC, with the Congolese army. Mbeki is lying.
Okay, that's one. And let me just play one more regarding the president.
Hey, Ashraf and all SAFM listeners, good afternoon. Well, as I was listening to former President Thabo Mbeki giving a simple narrative, as to what is the problem in that part of the world, in DRC. I just wonder, where are the negotiation skills that Ramaphosa was hailed with when he is actually looking like a failure now? And I also wonder whether is he not involved, in those black diamonds. This is Andile from Stagsbraid in the Eastern Cape near the Lesotho borders.
Okay, but there's lots of speculation. I mean, it doesn't mean like diamonds, or maybe he's involved. Like we also going all over the place with this. I mean, seriously speaking, right? And we're talking about a country. Okay, let's pause. We're going to chat to Tebogo Ditshego right after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, there are so many different takes. So earlier on, we chatted to we played the sound of former President Thabo Mbeki from about 6 to 8 months ago, maybe even longer, about just his thoughts of the problems in the DRC. Some people saying spot on, others like, he's off the mark, he's wrong. We've done that. We've also chatted to Sophie Mokoena, the SABC News spokesperson, well, in fact, SABC News international editor, and we chatted to Yolande Makolo, who's the spokesperson for the government of Rwanda. So we'll take it a step further now because it's such a big issue. We're wondering, particularly South Africa, maybe we'll talk about Rwanda too, but particularly South Africa, in the light of this row, and really it's 3 countries, the DRC, Rwanda, and South Africa. How has South Africa communicated itself to all of us? Let's learn something with someone who knows all about communications. Tebogo Ditshego is with us. He's the CEO of Ditshego Media. Tebogo, good chatting to you. Thanks for connecting.
Thank you, Ashraf. Compliments of the new year. Great to chat to you.
Oh, do we still do that? It's almost the last day of January. Fine. Let's do this. I want to play a clip from the conversation I had. Just one clip from Yolande Makolo, the spokesperson for the government of Rwanda. She said lots of things. I would suggest every one of you listen to the complete podcast. It's about 20 minutes, in fact. Check it out, safm.co.za. But this, Tebogo, is what she said.
Well, President Ramaphosa himself told President Kagame that he knows that the soldiers from South Africa were killed by the Congolese armed forces that are fighting alongside a ragtag group of very violent militias.
All right. I mean, we know there's been a big ambiguity of that coming from different sources within South Africa, and it does sound very, very confusing. Let's then talk about Kagame's effectively I would say reprimanding South Africa in many ways, suggesting you can't be this peacemaker, or claim to be the peacemaker, and doing what you're doing right now, and then followed up with a series of tweets. What is the position of your president in pushing that communication line to this country?
Well, what my president did was very simple. He responded to a tweet that had a lot of misinformation. It did not reflect what President Ramaphosa tweeted. did not reflect their conversations, the 2 calls that they had this past few days. And they've spoken many times. I think President Kagame is always willing to speak to anyone who has anything to contribute, because we're always looking for a political solution. And President Ramaphosa has been forthcoming with wanting to connect with the president and discuss these issues. And we appreciate that. What we did not appreciate is these tweets that came out that did not reflect what they spoke about. And President Kagame, was very clear in his tweets last night. That was really to clarify and put out the truth of what they spoke about.
Why was
South Africans deserve the truth. I mean, that you said you saw yourself. There's a lot of confusion with this information.
Okay, I mean, of course, there's so much more to that. So, Tebogo, we got you here to assist us, just to understand not the intricacies of what's going on there, but certainly how it's being communicated. So basically, there's a crisis of sorts, and how is South Africa handling that crisis by communicating it to its citizens? So, what are your thoughts?
Well, firstly, there's a mistaken perception that South Africa is involved in the peacekeeping mission in eastern Congo, and South Africa is at loggerheads with Rwanda. And the misunderstanding is in terms of the isolation of South Africa from a communications perspective. And it seems as if we have self-isolated. Yes, the SANDF has deployed troops to the region of the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, but South Africa is not the sole nation that is involved. This is a Southern African Development Community mission. And the problem is that there's an issue in terms of the architecture of the communication. So who are the authorities who should be first to speak on the issue? What is the communication protocol? And how do you align all of the various stakeholders to ensure that everything that is communicated is within the correct definition in terms of how things need to be communicated? And I think we made it easier for us to be isolated by making our own statements, very long, statements, and unnecessarily long, making certain accusations, and then we had a situation where there was a series of responses and a direct threat to South Africa, and this shouldn't be the case if we had the correct communication architecture.
Well, I mean, interesting. So when you say if we had the correct communication architecture, I'm just thinking about everybody in government comms listening to you talking now. What for you would be the correct communications architecture?
So firstly, this is a SADC mission, and the president, the current head of the SADC, is Emmerson Mnangagwa, who is the president of Zimbabwe. If you look at him, he is not involved in any back and forth spat, even though he's involved in the decision, which was taken on the 15th of December 2023, to deploy the troops on the side of the government of the DRC. Now, it is important that we mention that it was to restore peace and security, but you cannot call it a peacekeeping mission, because a peacekeeping mission has to be objective and it has to come at the consent of both sides. So it was to support a fellow SADC member in line with the emphasis of the fact that any armed attack perpetrated against one of the state parties shall be considered a threat to regional peace and security and shall be met with immediate collective action. So this is a part of the SADC Pact, which has taken place. And so the architecture should have started with Emmerson Mnangagwa as the head of SADC.
Right. So does that surprise you? I mean, is it not a case of South Africa responded primarily because the loss of lives were South Africans?
You see, that's it's important. So the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of South Africa has a responsibility to communicate with South Africans to ensure that peace is also achieved within our borders, and that we communicate, certain things about what is happening with our forces. The issue is that, was that the only thing communicated? Did we only communicate the casualties, or did we overstep the diplomatic boundaries and started to perhaps mention details that could cause tension. You know, and I think we overstepped, you know, the boundaries. The other person who would have been within the architecture would have been Major General Monwabisi Diakopo, and he would have been the correct person besides Emerson Mnangagwa to communicate if details have to be outlined, but not necessarily, you know, if we're talking about casualties, yes, we can provide the statement, but we cannot go beyond that and start to mention details that are not.
And then talking about overstepping, I mean, yesterday you had a situation where at the cabinet, Lekgotla, naturally this conversation was brought up, and you had the minister of the Defence Force, you had the deputy minister, as well as the minister of DIRCO, Foreign International Relations there, and then the president also talking on his own. Did you find, as many others are finding, that there was mixed messaging amongst every one of them?
Absolutely. There was a lot of mixed messaging, you know, language that has been used. For example, that we have warned Rwanda about, you know, certain actions that would be seen as an act of war. That was absolutely not necessary. And we're having an issue of too many people taking decisions in terms of what needs to be communicated, but also the sitting of SADC, the extraordinary sitting that's going to take place today, is slightly late. It should have happened a bit earlier so that we are not the ones who are at the, you know, the front of communicating, that we ensure that the communication comes from SADC. Then we could have avoided all of these things that have created further tension, because miscommunication in this context can have detrimental consequences to our peace and security.
Okay, I'm very keen about the tweets from Paul Kagame, which we'll ask you about in just a moment, right? But there's also been the other school of thought, and people have given the example of Donald Trump in the USA. So you see, in a crisis like this, they will front up in a matter of minutes, and they will actually have a media or press briefing every single day from the White House.
Yes.
Are you saying that South Africa should do that or should not do that?
Should not do that. What should happen is SADC should do that.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's surprising that a lot of South Africans didn't even know about this mission until there were fatalities on the side of South Africa. So communication has been lacking from the side of SADC. And I think that the vacuum was then filled by South Africa, but that is not what was supposed to happen. If we wanted to communicate, we should have kept it within the bounds of the fatalities, but not to mention any further details that SADC should be covering.
All right. Last one, very quickly, on the issue of Kagame's tweets, who his spokesperson said he tweeted effectively to correct the lies of Ramaphosa. What do you think of Kagame's position in terms of using the X platform to tweet out his thoughts?
Well, any time that there's conflict and it escalates into possible war, you have people who want to be involved in the battle of the opinion, because, you know, how you influence the public in terms of what is happening, who is right and who is wrong, plays a major role in terms of you being able to advocate for further support of the public and other strategic allies that could be brought forth and attracted to support you in what you are doing. So he was playing a role in ensuring that he is not characterized as, you know, supporting these forces, the group that is within the Eastern Congo, and not being characterized as a militia. So I think it was a battle of ideas.
All right. And quick yes, no on this one here. Should South Africa now respond to those tweets?
No. So the correct thing is happening now. SADC is now sitting, and SADC needs to make the statement. SADC is a very powerful institution. It has done great work previously on this matter.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that. Tebogo Lesego, thank you for that. SADC, and I think he's right in terms of the command.
I feel great. I feel nice.
Kasha, what's the goal? We're quelling on the highest, the summer level. What are we? Skim Sam, what's the qua? How you go make his squat for Lieto? That far of that Nandi summer content. Charlie says the girl must vuma. It's the go on SABC Plus. Don't miss Skim Sam at 7:30 weekdays only on SABC 1. Zanti for sure.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
SABC CSI, in partnership with SAFM, will be giving away 20 laptops to Tetlanyo Secondary School in Kimberley on the 31st of January 2025. Tetlanyo Secondary School has been nominated by the SABC to receive 20 laptops after writing a donation request to enhance their ambitions to be 4IR compliant and increase the number of learners ready to participate fully and productively in the country's economy. Tune in to SAFM on the 31st of January and listen to The Talking Point, broadcasting live from the Tetlanyo Secondary School. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, let's get to another issue. We'll take your responses on all those conversations, particularly around, Rwanda, DRC, South Africa, around about 5:45. Okay, so you can call in, you can text, you can WhatsApp. If you're texting, it's 0614 104 107. The same with WhatsApp, but also others are commenting on the X platform. Tweet it out. Tag me, Ashraf Garda, tag SAFM Radio. Right, let's then get to another important issue where, as we get into the new year, one of the issues for certainly students, school, but definitely at university, is this huge issue of, I'm going into another year, and I'm talking about not first year students, second year, third year, going into another year, and they've got student debt and therefore not accepted to study for the next year until they pay, and there's clearly no way they've got the money. I understand at Wits University, 800 students, they should be delighted. Their student debt has been cleared this week, and the amount, just to show you, I understand is 63 million rands. Wow. Let's find out what actually happened, how did it get paid, and what happens next with Jerome September, the Dean of Student Affairs at Wits University. Jerome, appreciate your time. Good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, that's the good news. 800 students now are cleared to study. That, in essence, is what's happened, right?
Yes, that is in short what actually happened. We have what we call a discretionary fund portal, which is where a student who is in need, we ask them to register their details on the portal. And this is, it's not guaranteed funding, but every now and again, as what happened now, a number of individuals or corporates would come and say, we want to fund students. That's when then our go-to place.
Okay, so how then did you get to that figure of I understand why they're owing the 63, but that's a big amount of money of support. Did all that money flood in the last month effectively to support the students?
So this is what would have come in over the last month and a half or so. What we then did was to go to that portal. So we knew we had the 63 million, and then it was about who do we give it to. We then went to the portal where students would have registered themselves, given their details, and we would then have looked at, okay, let's start with the highest performer and work our way down until we have assisted as many people as possible. It turned out to be at about 65% where the cash ran out. And that came to 800 students.
All right. So yes, 800 now cleared to study, right?
Yeah.
Not just that cleared to study, to learn. What is it? The Clever Boys? I'm thinking of the old soccer slogan of the Wits University Football Club, right? How many students still on the outside now?
So there is probably still about 1,000 or so outside of that. We have a big need in this space. Of course, we also have other funding opportunities available, like our hardship fund, which would assist towards registration specifically. Kind of judging from the past, we'll be probably looking at another 5,000 or so that might need assistance.
Those are big numbers. So what would have happened? Excuse me, I understand. It's an age-old problem of students just not having enough money. Goodness, government doesn't have enough money about important issues, so we know that across the board, right? But are we saying that if Wits University was unable to rally calls from, I would take business funders ultimately, right, and maybe other funders, that that those students would not be studying this year at Wits University?
It's a high likelihood. What we do have is so there's a number of concessions that we have. If you owe us less than 10,000, we would allow you to register. If you owe more than that, we ask you to pay 50% of your debt. You sign an acknowledgement of debt and a payment plan, and you're then able to register. We then have the hardship fund, which I indicated, where a student who might not have that 50% can then apply for assistance, and there we try and help as many people as we possibly can. You might know our SRC, of course, also runs their own fundraising sort of initiatives. Last year, they assisted around 190 students. So there's all these efforts between us, the students themselves, to kind of assist as many people as we possibly can.
Okay. I mean, how do we ever, this is an annual problem that not just your university has, but I mean, every single university in the country, right?
Yeah.
How do we move to a situation where we don't have that? I mean, it's a natural thing well in advance that learners or students who don't have the money, which is the majority of South Africans, in fact, they are assisted in a way that they don't have to, congratulate themselves on getting to year 2, but stressing to the point of unbelievable stress. How do we fix this?
So the big challenge is, of course, around the so-called missing middle students. As you will know, there is NSFAS. They take care of the bulk of the poor, up to about 350,000 Rand house income. So that group is kind of taken care of. It is really that missing middle cohort, 351,000 to perhaps about 700,000 income, and that's where we need to kind of zoom in. So as Wits, of course, we have major fundraising campaigns that run all the way through the year, so that we are able to connect students to the funding opportunities available out there. But it's really going to have to be a collective effort in terms of how we think about the future.
Okay, and lastly, very quickly, I mean, in terms of the donors, I mean, who are they?
Well, that I can't disclose, but it's a number. I mean, it's a number. It's foundations, it's individuals, it's companies that come on board. Often people don't want that to be disclosed because, I don't want publicity of doing this, because I believe it's a good cause. But it's a number.
So without pushing, I don't want you to name names. Understandably, you can't. But it's just an interesting exercise. So what percentage of these big donors don't want their names mentioned at all, companies or individuals?
It's often a few. Often a company would have a kind of bursary program where, of course, the name is out there. It is a scholarship that I was given by company X. When it comes to the discretionary fund, it is benevolence. It is often out of the goodness of my heart. It is often I read a story somewhere and I feel I'm kind of the need and I want to give.
Okay. Well, lots to learn from that. Thank you for your time. Jerome September, Dean of Student Affairs at Wits University. 800 students now cleared to study. That debt cleared of 63 million rands. But as Jerome September says, in fact, there are so many more students who are still battling, and it's not just at Wits, we can say ditto across the country. What do we do about them? Let's get the news headlines just gone 5:30. Here's Greg.
A quick look at the headlines. The National Energy Regulators announced it has approved electricity tariff adjustments for Eskom for the next 3 years. The Reserve Banks decided to cut interest rates by 25 basis points, and prosecutors in Sweden say an Iraqi asylum seeker who publicly burned the Quran has been shot dead. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Sunninghill has a crash before Buccleuch interchange. The N12 westbound in Bedfordview has a crash after the Edenvale Road exit. The N1 southbound in Fairland has a crash before the Beyers-Naudé Drive exit, and the M1 southbound queuing through Crown interchange towards Boysons. In KZN, the N3 southbound has a jackknife truck reported on Van Reenens Pass. Traffic is moving via contraflow on the northbound carriageway, so expect delays, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Cromboom Road exit. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Okay, Tumi, we talk tickets or we talk other sport? I'll leave it to you.
I think let's start off with the tickets because we have a winner. As you can hear, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do we have a winner on? Okay, so we're still trying to get him on. Perhaps let's start off with. Oh, it's a him.
No, we know.
Let's start off with the bulletin then, and then we'll get to our winner of the evening. Well, Orlando Pirates head into the Soweto Derby this weekend, looking to be the only Buccaneers side to defeat Kaizer Chiefs 4 times in a row in the 55-year history of the rivalry. Coach Jose Rivero's team won both league games last season and the Nedbank Cup semi-final 2023, and they're now seeking an unprecedented 4th successive victory. They have already played 27 games this season, recording 20 wins, 4 draws, and just 3 losses, and a win for Pirates will help them close the gap to log leaders Mamelodi Sundowns to 3 points. But assistant coach Mandla Ncigazi insists that they are taking it one game at a time.
There's so many competitions that our club has been involved in. If we were to try and look at all those dynamics, I think we'll lose focus. What helps the team to stay focused is looking at the next match, analyze the opponents, prepare who is ready to play, and perform and try and win the match. I think that has helped us. So Kaizer Chiefs, we see a team that is an opponent where we need points, and we're just going there to try and get 3 points. Where the points are taking us is something else that is not calculated within. For us, try and play and try and win the next match. That's all we're focusing on.
On Chiefs' side of things, head coach Nasruddin Nabi has confirmed that Wandile Duba will miss the Soweto Derby due to injury. The 20-year-old has been one of Amakosi's key players under Nabi, scoring 4 goals in 14 league matches so far. However, he picked up an injury in Chiefs' 1-0 win over Sekhukhune, and Nabi confirmed the winger will be out for 1.5 months. Meanwhile, Tashreeq Morris is amongst the players suspended for this weekend's game. He's still serving a suspension from the red card that he received while playing for SuperSport United against Sekhukhune United earlier this month. The good news, though, for Chiefs is that Coach Nabi has finished his 2-match suspension and will be allowed to return to the bench during the Soweto Derby. Elsewhere, Ruben Amorim has warned Manchester United forward Marcus Rashford that he has to change if he wants to save his Old Trafford career. Now, Rashford has not played for United since a Europa League tie in December, and the 27-year-old will also miss his 12th successive game when Amorim's side finished the Europa League group phase today. Then in tennis, the US Open will become a 15-day tournament in 2025, beginning on a weekend for the first time in the Open era. This year's main draw at Flushing Meadows will start on the 24th of August and it will end on the 7th of September. It becomes the latest Grand Slam to announce a Sunday start, and the Australian Open expanded to a 15-day tournament last year after the French Open took the decision in 2006, and that leaves Wimbledon as the only remaining slam event to retain the traditional Monday start. The tournament estimates an expansion will allow access for an additional 70,000 spectators. In the meantime, Afghanistan's women cricketers today played their first game since fleeing the Taliban 3 years ago in a charity match in Australia that Captain Nahida Sapan hoped would spark a movement for change. Hundreds of women athletes fled Afghanistan as the Taliban took over in August 2021, escaping a hardline stance that essentially banned women's sport and education. And most of the national women's cricket side, they settled as refugees in Australia, where they reunited for the first time today to play a charity match in Melbourne. And the Afghanistan Cricket Board made a significant stride in November 2020 when it handed 25 promising women cricketers professional contract. With that said, it's not a wrap from my side.
You are totally distracted by this ticket store. Nothing else matters today.
I'm always happy.
And so am I, by the way. Yeah,
yes. So I think let's get our drum roll that you were asking for earlier on.
Yeah. Right. Just remind us, what was the requirement?
So we were asking how many players have played for both Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, and we have a winner, and our winner is online. A very good afternoon to you, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, madam.
Who are we talking to? And a big congratulations to you.
I never made anything. This is the first one. It's Begelihle Zulu.
Begelihle, a big congratulations to you. And there's always a first time for everything. So I'm thankful that you have won something via SAFM. Tell us, what was your answer?
Plus 14.
14 was the answer, and I think I actually helped them to get it right?
You said my 11 is way off. I was so disappointed.
I said 11 is way off and 13 is the closest. Yeah. But anyway, a big congratulations to you, and I hope you enjoy the game this Saturday.
Thank you so much, madam.
Alrighty. I'm just going to give you those names just by the way, just to refresh some of our people's minds. It's Jimmy Tau, Max Maponyane, Sizwe Motaung, Jabu Pule Mahlangu, Collins Mbesuma, Pauline Nglanya, Ace Kuse, Lehlohonolo Majoro, Stanton Fredericks, Spelele Mthembu, Mark Batchelor, Gert Skalkwyk, William Twala, and last but not least, Chinja Golova, Kaizer Motaung. That's your 14 names.
It could be 15 if you said Jabu Pule Mahlangu. But anyway, let me not say much about that.
Well, a big congratulations to our winner.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great stuff. Lovely competition. Are you going to be there at the game?
Unfortunately not. I wish I could, but I'll be watching it on TV.
Get your priorities. Well, certainly watching Chiefs against Pirates. Okay, so more sports tomorrow.
Yeah.
Owning a small or medium-sized business takes courage, skill, and determination. The Clientele Legal Business Plan is there to protect, guide, and assist your business in managing the legal risks. Let us handle your labor matters, employment contracts, CCMA referrals, and so much more. Our team of professional lawyers are standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 42770. That's SAFM to 42770. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Toffees are well aware that only maximum points will help them out of the bottom half.
Lewin, great feat, brilliance, absolutely superbly done. Calvert-Lewin for Everton.
Meanwhile, the Foxes believe they are in dire need of victory to run away from trouble.
It's Jordan Ayew, back to goal. Jordan Ayew has scored for Leicester City, and those Leicester fans are celebrating wildly.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb contest, Everton FC versus Leicester City FC, on Saturday 1 February at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is closing on the 3rd of February 2025. Explore the theatre of the mind and write your 60-minute radio drama play and email it before 5 p.m. on the 3rd of February 2025. Late submissions will not be accepted. For further information about the competition, visit safm.co.za or send an email to drama@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, let's get to the SAFM market update, and it's been Dudu's week, in fact. So Dudu, what's of course Dudu in for Jimmy? What are the big numbers you're going to tell us about today and the show ahead?
Hello, Ashraf. Absolutely. And Jimmy, by the way, is back next week, Monday, with you. But for today, we've got MoneyWeb's contributor, Henku Kriel, standing by to tell us how the markets fared on this Thursday. A happy day or not on the markets. Hello, Henku Kriel. How did we fare?
It was indeed a very happy day, Dudu. Good evening to you and Ashraf and to all of our listeners. It was a green day all over the world. The Dow Jones at this stage of the game 0.2% up, the S&P 500 0.3% stronger, and the Nasdaq is 0.1% up. Then European stocks, they finished well into the green a short while ago. The FTSE 100 in London as well as the CAC 40 in France both gained 0.7% today. And then the DAX in Germany finished 0.3% stronger. Our stock exchange, the JSE, and its all-share index also finished higher today. It gained 0.4% and it climbed to a higher level of 85,685 points. But when we get to the sub-indices, the industrial index and financial index, they didn't want to move at all today. They remained unchanged by close of business. But then the resources index sharply up today, 1.7% stronger. Companies who contributed towards that were Amplats, Kumba, Sibanye-Stillwater, Exxaro and Northam, because Amplats as well as Kumba, they both finished 5.5% stronger, followed by Sibanye-Stillwater, Exxaro and Northam. They each gained 4%, and there were also companies like Sasol and Implats. They each gained 3.5% today. We did have some losing companies today, but the companies that went down today didn't lose a lot. Like Hyprop, Mr. Price and Vukile, they each lost only about 1.1%, and then British American Tobacco, Outsurance and Barlow World each lost 1% today. Then let's have a look at how the Rand is doing against all of the other currencies around the world. You'll be paying 18 Rand and 44 cents for a US dollar, 19 Rand 24 for a euro, 11 Rand 45 for an Australian dollar, and a British pound will cost you 23 Rand exactly. Then if we have a look at the commodities, the gold price is $2,790 an ounce. Silver is on the move. That's now higher than it has been these last couple of months, and it's now sitting at $32 an ounce. Platinum, $967, and palladium, $985 an ounce. Nice to see the oil price going down. It's quite sharply down. It's now trading at $75 a barrel. And then lastly but not least, the price of a Bitcoin is $106,200, and that is exactly 2 million Rand. And Dudu, that is how the markets performed today.
Henko Kriel, thank you very much as always for that comprehensive update. Ashraf, here's what you can look forward to come 6 p.m. Our market watcher this evening, I lose my words, is Nellis Brink, Wealth Manager at PSG Wealth. And of course, as we are all aware by now, if you are servicing a major debt, you're likely to get an SMS from your bank either tomorrow or sometime next week, letting you know that the interest rate has been cut. The Reserve Bank making that announcement this afternoon. We're going to be speaking to Patrick Buthelezi, an economist with Sanlam Investments, in terms of what this means for you and I, but also the country's economy at large. We're also going to be speaking to an energy company called UV. They're going to be entering the South African renewable energy space. They're making an investment of some 6 billion Rand. We'll find out why South Africa and how exactly all of this is going to work. We also take a look at energy trends that we are likely to see in 2025 as we look ahead to the mining Indaba, which is set to take place in the first week of February. Rentia van Tonder is head of power at Standard Bank, and she's going to be joining us for that conversation. And we're speaking to a cleaning house company for our SME feature this week, something that was inspired by a mother's love and, of course, a father's vigilance, a company that was founded to make sure that other households have that cleanliness in their homes. So Antoinette de Carvalho is the founder of Dusted Dollies, and she's going to be telling us all about her business. Thank you very much, Ashraf. That's it from the SAFM Market Update team with MoneyWeb for now. We'll be back at 6 p.m.
Absolutely. That's it for now. Exactly as you said. Looking forward to listening to your show. Well, in just about 14 minutes time. Thanks for that, Dudu. Right. Let's get your thoughts. Let's get your calls. I want to get a sense of what you're feeling about the National Pulse right now.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1997, a loaf of bread cost only 2 Rand. Now, it's about 24 Rand. Prices just keep going up. But you can count on Outsurance's commitment to saving you big bucks on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Cyril saves 358 Rand a month on his 2023 GWM P-Series 4x4.
It was mind-blowing. It was quick and easy. That saving is actually saving my paycheck. Leave all the insurances and come to Outsurance because they will save.
Another satisfied Outsurance customer. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. And when it comes to service, Outsurance is on the ball. Valid claims are settled and paid out quickly with no hassle. SMS out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Life is too short for long-term grudges, but when it's the Soweto Derby,
Hey, my daughter, I barely. Black and white confronts gold and black.
the Buccaneers believe,
Yonke indawo, ibhakabhaka, liyaphumelela.
while Amakhosi still emphasize,
Ikhosi, alipheli umoya.
experience Mzansi's biggest football rivalry, Orlando Pirates versus Kaizer Chiefs, on Saturday, 1 February at 2 p.m. live on SABC1 and at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends, you need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
By the way, you know, on a Friday we have this fireside chat, and last week our guest was was Themba Bavuma, the South African cricket captain. Listen to the podcast; it is a really beautiful conversation. That was last week. Check it out, safm.co.za. Tomorrow, our guest is someone you hear often, Sherwin Bryce Pease. I'll chat to him for an hour about himself. Looking forward to that from 5 to 6. Let's now, however, stay with the biggest issues, which I can tell you now is completely skewed to Rwanda, the DRC, and South Africa.
Asha, good afternoon. That woman talking lies. Is Kagame who commit genocide. It him with his people kill his brothers Tutsis. Then after that he says genocide. He's a liar. He's a liar. Everything they're talking there is a liar. 30 years ago, they have delay. If they were 30, today they're 60, 70, 80. They don't fight anymore. They don't fight anymore. That is a lie. That is a way to come to get mine, to exploit mine in our country. Thank you, Asha. Bye.
Thank you so much. I don't have to add to that. You've made your point very, very clear.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Tuma. I think Ramaphosa is hiding with peacekeeping mission and those UN calls and stuff, assisting in peacekeeping mission. There is something going on there. There's something that those soldiers are protecting there, and it's their own interest. It's not for peacekeeping. I don't think Kagame is wrong. I think they are in a mission for some sort.
But what mission? I mean, you see, what I'm asking is, how do you know that for sure? Like, to actually say it's happening. I know you use the word think, but like you're saying, think as in a fact. How do you know that?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. South Africa doesn't have intelligence. They didn't access the situation thoroughly. Secondly, South Africa must know that the constitution only remains in South Africa. You cannot expect electricity in war zones. Stuff like that. They are very disappointing. They must start back to the ground and retrain and get the survival kits of hostility or hostile situations. You cannot tax electricity in a war zone. What kind of a soldier is that? Thank you very much. I'm so disappointed. Ninamas from Soweto.
Well, thank you for raising your issues, Anonymous. Thank you for raising it. Just one more. I'll get to a caller, get to John in a moment.
Good day, Ashraf. Good afternoon, SAFM listeners. Ashraf, I've got great respect for you. Trust me. You ask Sophie Mukwena a pertinent question that we are all asking. What are our soldiers doing there? I think with all the experience and the time she's been in that job, she should clearly be able to articulate it in 30 seconds. Just say there's a treaty, there's an agreement and whatever. And she did not answer that question. Lutando, you're in Cape Town.
Okay, thanks for the respect. Appreciate it. I'll tell you what, we also get it wrong. I get things wrong sometimes. I can't speak on behalf of Sophie, but appreciate the feedback that we get. John in Tabanchu, go for it, John.
Yes, Ashraf, good evening. Ashraf, I want to talk about this issue of DRC.
Yeah, just go for it. Yeah, go for it, straight away.
Yes, others I know personally. The issue of DRC, I'm surprised at the arrogance of President Kagame. I really, I'm surprised, but I'm not. And they are trying to adapt. The dots are trying to figure out something. I check at the type of weapons they are using. They are coming from Israel. As the other general, there's a general who was spot on. I think it was from intelligence. The weapons they are using is coming from Israel, and we know Israel and America they close allies. So, and we still owe Israel because we took them to that court of what was justice section. So it's now the dot. I'm trying to add up something, and I'm trying to add up, and that support of Israel, it is the thing that is making Kagame so.
So you're saying Israel's playing a part. In fact, there's a tweet from the Israeli foreign minister suggesting support to Rwanda, just by the way. But whether there's an actual link is what you're saying. I mean, we don't have proof, so I don't know. Okay, I hear that. I don't know whether that can be the case. It's it's difficult to say. Kagame, another thought.
Hi, Ashraf. JJ, yes, that's great. The president of Rwanda disrespects our ministers and our president, calls them liars, but he's been lying all the time about supporting the rebels there. And why is it not mentioned in the United Nations? All the United Nations bodies, they see what is going on there, and they know that he's supporting those rebels. But no, he's not the one who's lying.
Okay, here's another one. Please keep the voice notes up to 30 seconds, because generally we can't really play them longer than that. I mean, this one's long. I'm playing it because it's one of the last things for the day, but generally, please, 30 seconds.
I think the problem with Cyril Ramaphosa is that he likes grandstanding, man. He likes to be seen as another Mandela, a peacemaker, a mediator, and he'll never be that. That's the problem with him. He doesn't look at the reality. He's so frustrating, eh? I used to support him. I said this man should be given a chance, but now he has proven beyond any reasonable doubt to even a blind man that this man is clueless. He doesn't know how to run the country. I mean, he should just give way to someone else, not from the ANC anyway. We don't want anything to do with the ANC. Come 2026 and 2029, we have to really make sure that the ANC is nothing but history, and thereafter we have to direct them to the courts of law. Matibang, thank you.
Okay. Without a shadow of doubt, as you say. Wow. Here's another.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, that eastern part of DRC, there are a lot of mines which are owned by foreign companies which are mining there. But you don't hear them complaining about the M23. Are they the friends of the M23 or what? There is a big question there. Norman from Brixton.
Okay, thanks for that, Norman. Let's get another quick call. Anonymous on the line. Hi, Anonymous.
How are you doing?
Anonymous, hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, and actually, I'm one of the right in the front lines here, ne? And when you get a break, you listen to I want to say to South Africans, they've been calling and making noise to shut up, and maybe one of them or two of them can come right into Goma and experience Goma for 2 weeks or 1 day only. Then they will realize what is it to be like in Goma.
So wait, let me understand you. Hold it. Are you saying you're in Goma right now? You're speaking to us from there, right?
Yes.
Are you a SADC soldier? What's your position?
Yes, I am in the force, so I know what's going on here, and I've called my family members and tell them to stop making noise and asking when are we coming back, and if they can come here, then they will realize what is the situation on the ground before anyone can make such comments to say we must come back and this and this.
Okay, so please tell us. I mean, tell us what don't we know? Tell us so we know.
No, I cannot, because some of our things are classified. I cannot about the noise that they are making, the messages that they are sending us. It's bullshit. I'm sorry to say that, but they must stop saying that.
All right, but I mean, okay, can you tell us anything?
No, I can't. But all I'm saying, it is a hostile situation. Situation is very volatile, and we are here on a mission, and we are here to execute the mission.
Okay. Do you fear for your life? I mean, do you think that you are compromised?
No, I am not being compromised. It's just the media sometimes. That's why I'm saying, bring your guys over from SADC, any local channel there. Bring them onto the battleground, and then they will see exactly what we are talking about before they can make this noise about this and this and this. I've even reprimanded my own family to say, stop doing what you're doing. It is wrong.
Okay, thank you for that. I wish we could speak a lot more than that. Okay, and I mean that one word that wasn't so suitable. Just an apology to the audience as well for that. Let me wrap up by just telling you that there's now been a call for a national march for tomorrow. In fact, 10 a.m. SAMATO calling on all healthcare professionals and communities to join the national march to the office of the Minister of Finance. And the reason for that, I think, is squarely around the issues of healthcare. That is what it is, because SAMATO is the South African Medical Association Trade Union. I'm not exactly sure what the details are. It just come through now, but we do know there are many healthcare workers who can't get jobs at the moment. That's the one thing I do know, right? There were many text messages. My apology, just could not read them. But I will say one that I'll end up with. Cass Nkoncho is one of them who says he knows all the answers of the Chiefs players, the 14, but he chose not to give the right answer because he says, I live in Cape Town, and I rather passed on the presidential tickets to others. So basically deliberately trying to lose so that he doesn't spoil it for you. When I suggested that Kaz is a winner for doing just that. That's the show. That's the National Pulse. I just wonder what we'll be talking about tomorrow, tonight, tomorrow morning, and then again tomorrow 3 to 6 here on the National Pulse. Let's get the news. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Coase.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Enjoy the rest of your evening. In this news update, NERSA approves Eskom tariff hike and a cut in